I'm pleased to be joined by none other than Kachine Alexander on a very happy edition of Iowa Postgame. Kachine, welcome. Good to see you on a Sunday afternoon.
It's fantastic to be here.
This is an interesting show, right? Isn't this a fun show?
You know what? Before we start off, how you feeling? You all right?
How about you go?
You okay?
How about you just listen?
I was just checking. I'm just checking on you as a friend.
4 seconds into the show.
I'm just checking on you as a friend, Corey. That's it.
Yeah.
Enough said. All right, keep going.
I'm sure people, first of all, people flooded me last night. I know it's going to be a topic this morning. I needed this win today. I needed the Iowa win. I don't know how we got there, but before we get to my thoughts on other things, because I'm sure we'll get there, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
And Don, I want you screaming and hollering at me or getting into defense mode. Were you wrong in your assessment of this game? Were you wrong? Don't be. Hey, were you wrong? Yes or no?
I quoted and I said anything could happen.
Okay,
I said it.
You said. We can roll with the tape back. Did you or did you?
And
not
I also stated how we were going to do it. What did I say? We were going to shoot well. We were going to rebound the basketball.
Yes.
What else did I say?
Well, first of all, you said they had to shoot like they did against Washington. That did not happen today.
That did not happen. But our defense was way better.
So
that made up for the other side.
I
think it.
Yeah, I'm.
But
listen,
did I think we were going to win? Hell no. You couldn't have. Absolutely not. What? Now I'm a basketball mind. Anything can happen on any given day. I'm aware of that. So I was like, well, let's see if miracles happen. Let's see. Let's see. So, hey.
Hawkeye shot 45% from the field and just 28% from. If I'd given you those numbers pregame, that Iowa would shoot 45% from the field, 28%. Let me get the numbers right. 45% from the field, 28% from three, and an average number at the free throw line, 75%. And they would have turned the ball over 17 times, which is basically standard Iowa nowadays. What would the predictive score been had you not known what USC did? 20 point
not knowing what USC did, and you told me that we won?
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, if I told you those numbers, what would the margin have been if you were just predicting based on those numbers?
Maybe like 20. Yeah, 20.
I think the
only
biggest
because, well, first of all, USC turned the crap over. Okay, they turned the ball over like crazy.
They did.
So that in itself is.
But let's be honest, Cash. That is never. Iowa was +1. They by USC turning the ball over like crazy. Iowa just made.
Yeah, but that's not USC's thing.
Okay,
we used to turning the ball over.
Yes,
that's in our game plan. They're not used to turning the ball over. That rocked them a little bit. They couldn't get into a groove. They couldn't get themselves moving. They were turning the ball over. It was now, mind you, we had something to do with that. We were very engaged. We were very aggressive. Like I said, we were playing tough basketball in that first quarter. So, we knocked them on their heels. We punched them in the mouth. Good.
What were you thinking when it was 18-1?
I said, I knew they were going to come back, though.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know when, but I knew they would. Now, what I was then thinking is like, okay, can the mindset that they have right now, like we can play with them, outwin that? You know what I'm saying? Like, because you've got this momentum. Yeah, basketball is a game of runs. People are going to make runs throughout the whole game. But are we going to be able to say, okay, yeah, we can play with them. We got this, y'all. Come on, let's go in that aspect. So I think that's what I was really waiting for, but I knew they was going to come back.
Iowa holds Juju Watkins to, I say holds. She's
27?
still 27 and drew 11 fouls, went to the free throw line 11 different times, but she was 1 of 7 from 3, 8 of 22. She played all 40 minutes. Kachine, what did Kylie Feuerbach and company do to make her inefficient? She still got hers, and you knew she was going to, but what made her inefficient today? How did Iowa pull that off?
It's a twofer. One, I think we had very active hands. Like, we were very active with her. I also believe that Juju was settling. I couldn't understand why she was taking so many outside jump shots. Like, why? That was something that
especially early, right?
Yeah. Why wasn't USC's coach posting her up? What? Like, it was just things like that were kind of confusing me a little bit, because it was almost like they made no adjustments to what we were doing. Kudos to us, though, because we forced them into having to make an adjustment, and that's what you want. Force them out of what they like to do and move them to their second and third and fourth options. If you could do that, you're in good shape.
Lucy Olsen goes for 20 on the flip side.
Come on, Lucy.
She goes for 28 and no 3-point makes. And now this is her second really efficient game in the last 3 tries. Remember, she was 8 of 8 against Washington, but she took 18 shots. I felt like she was as aggressive as we've seen her all year. Speaking of drawing fouls, she drew a team-high 8 fouls and only turned the ball over 4 times. She had the ball in her hands a lot. She played 37 minutes, as we knew she was going to have to. Had a couple of really pretty step-through moves in that second half while Caitlyn was being interviewed on the Fox broadcast. She was the person that, not to say that she hasn't been in other games, but she was the person today that Iowa fans hoped they were getting for this entire season. Not saying she was Caitlyn Clark, but she played her game as well as she can play it, no?
100%. Best game we've seen all season. And she demanded the basketball. She took over the game. That's what happened. Flat out. She did exactly what we were hoping for her to do this whole season. So I'm actually very happy for her.
We go down the list here, again, of other players that were huge. I mean, how about Addison O'Grady? You and I
where y'all Ava people at? What? Can we take a minute? Because y'all was fighting me on Twitter. So I need not you. But I'm just saying, y'all was trying to come at my girl Addie. She came in clutch.
She did
in the third, fourth quarter. Yeah, come on, Addie.
You couldn't
give her props. Give her flowers.
You had to feel good for her because there's a number of reasons why. First of all, you got all the outside noise on social media about how Ava, a true freshman, should be cutting into Addie, who, by the way, is having a career best season. And then you also think about their last road loss, right? Am I correct in saying that? Their last loss, I'm sorry, was at Oregon, correct? I'm not making that up. And remember how they lost that game? Addie O'Grady had a shot that was her shot and came up short, a little mid-range jumper. She hit 2 or 3 of those late today. And by the way, she had to be on the floor because Hannah Stolke got a 4th foul midway through that third quarter, though I thought was a really bad play on Hannah Stolke's part. You got to be more aware of that. I'm not going to criticize the coaching staff for having her on the court at that point. I think it was smart to have her on the court, but you just can't foul.
You can't, not that kind of, no.
Baseline deep under the rim to pick up that 4th foul. But Addison was called upon, and she played. Did she ever come out? She never came out, did she?
Nope. She stayed in the whole 4th quarter.
So we don't have an official player of the game, but how do you pick between? I mean, I think Lucy would be that. I don't think they win without Addie's contributions down the stretch. I don't know what Ava would have done in that situation, but just with the foul trouble, this thing could have got sour very quickly in that 4th. Agreed?
I mean, it's still Lucy for me. Yeah, hands down.
Folks, we got like 630 people. We're waiting on Kyle Huseman, who's going to be coming up to us live from Carver. Of course, Caitlyn Clark, her jersey is now in the rafters. Cool to see that on Fox for everybody that was there. I'm sure people trying to travel home, be safe if you're watching the show. If you want to call in, the numbers in the Well, it's on the bottom ticker. Our StreamYard link is in the description. The number to call in is 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. We've got one person on hold there. We got a couple here on the StreamYard line. So we got a couple of openings. Again, we're recapping the Iowa women's basketball team, their victory 76-69 over the 4th-ranked Trojans. This is their signature win.
Yes.
And it ended up being their only signature win, Kachine. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, not saying they couldn't beat UCLA, but I think you and I both agreed the chances of them winning this game were very low. And give them credit. They went out there and beat it. I think they rode the momentum and the emotion of the day. And I'm sure Caitlyn Clark giving them their pregame hype pep talk and being there at practice yesterday was a big motivating factor. Sometimes you play better than you are in big situations. Some teams cower to those opportunities. Some teams rise. I have questioned the leadership of this team, the fire, the tenacity, the killer instinct at the top. We did not see that tonight. I think without question, this could have went the other direction if there was poor leadership at the top, whether it be coaching, whether it be player-led, Kachine. The fact that they use this and then, hey, they blew a lead, right? I mean, USC had the lead at halftime after Iowa was up 18-1. USC had 1 point 9 minutes into the game. Iowa blows the lead, and still, second half, they're led by their senior, their super senior, Lucy Olsen, who comes in there, and I don't know how many, I grabbed their second half stats here in a second, but what does this tell you about leadership when it has been questioned by more than just you and I?
I think leadership might have been a little bit different today, only because Lucy may not have been the vocal one, but she was action-based. She took it upon herself. I mean, she got key steals in the game. It wasn't just offense. She was all around really good and really solid. And I think that she led on the court more so than like vocal-wise. And because of her calmness and she was able to knock down shots, she was able to do all of these things. Her team had a sense of calmness as well. So sometimes leadership doesn't have to be vocal. You could also be, you just show up and do your job, and everybody's like, okay, Lucy, okay, she here. So it's time to go. So I think that that's kind of what I saw a lot from her today. I did think that everybody else had a different belief today than I think we've seen before. I was not happy with Sydney and her ball handling. But I will give credit where credit is due. Coaches made a change. And I felt like that helped us because we was going downhill fast when it came to that. And making that change and bringing Aaliyah up and moving kind of Sydney out of there, I think helped a lot because she was just on an island by herself. And that's just not her strong suit. So that was a huge change for them. And then us going to zone. I mean, what? Like going to zone, I think really shifted in that second half and really slowed down USC and allowed us to separate. So I feel like, I know we've been really hard on the coaches, but those coaches won that game today.
And give Sydney Falter credit for a couple of things. She had 5 steals, 9 rebounds, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. I'll throw the numbers up here on the bottom and make this correction so we don't have a typo and people jump all over me for this. Yes, she was good in a number of facets. Ball handling is, and USC was pressing too, especially late, and she had the ball in her hand.
Ball handling is not her strong suit.
It's not. It's not. And no. It was probably foolish on everyone. I don't think you ever predicted this. I'm not saying I predicted it, but I was hopeful that she could take a centerpiece role in the offense even before Lucy Olsen committed to Iowa in the offseason with the departures that we saw last year. And I think that's just never going to be her. Just like Addison O'Grady's never going to be Monica Sonano, Megan Gustafson, Sydney Falter's never going to be Caitlyn Clark, Lucy Olsen. I don't even know that she's ever going to be Kate Martin from a perspective of fire and off-court leadership. I can't speak to that because I'm not there. Kate Martin, without question, I think by all accounts was a phenomenal leader on and off the court. And again, Iowa defeating USC 76-69. We had a lot of people lined up. Let's go to our first caller, folks. If you want to call in, 515-635-1601 or click the StreamYard link in the description. Tyler's with us. Tyler, good to see you. How we doing? Good occasion.
Yeah, very good occasion. In everything that I look at as a fan, I always come back to these questions. Does whatever event happen, does whatever player acquisition happen, or does whatever game there is, Does this get my team closer to the eventual goal, which should be a championship? And I understand we're not going to win a championship this year. We're not even going to compete with the Big Ten or the NCAA basketball tournament. But coming out of this game, I'm asking myself, what does this mean? Short-term and long-term for this team. What is the best we can hope for from it now? As far as making the tournament, as far as how we place in the Big Ten, anything like that. What do you guys see as the short-term and long-term big picture when it comes to, in light of today's win?
Short-term is confidence builder. Those girls are on a complete high right now. The confidence, knowing that they can play with the number 4 team in the country, they can play with a 9-0 in the Big Ten team. That's short-term. It's sheer confidence. I think long-term, one, that's a really good resume builder. Because you have that on your resume. So if something, let's just say we get down to the end and we're on the bubble, they're probably going to go simply because of that win. So long term, that's a great look. Secondly, I think that we had talked, I think it was Corey actually who said, or maybe it was Kyle, I don't remember, one of you had said that we had to pick up one of these. And I remember us being like, "Ooh, that might be a tough ask." USC or UCLA is what I'm talking about. We just picked up one of them. So now we're looking at the rest of the schedule, not saying it's any easier, okay? But it does put us in a good place because now we picked up that win. We can kind of steamroll our way and continue going down the list and, see how we come out. But any win is a great win in the Big Ten. But that one is a fantastic
I think, first of all, I think it's going to be a difficult trip to the barn. It's going to be a difficult trip to Hustle. Both of those teams are dangerous. Both of those teams are better than they have been in past years, and they're tough. They're difficult venues. I mean, if you've seen the Pinnacle Bank Arena rocking, or if you've been to the barn, Kachine knows all about the barn. I know it's an old, I don't want to say dump, but it's an old barn, literally. But boy, it's a tough place to play when it's rocking. And I think they're going to be. The good news here is, Tyler, I'm hopeful that a lot of Iowa fans gobbled up some tickets during the earlier parts of the season. I don't know how many Iowa fans will be there, but any tickets available, I'm sure, are being gobbled up by Iowa fans right now. It's a big 2-game stretch here on the road because they go and lose these next two. I don't want to say they're right back where they were because it doesn't take away from the elite win. But I think even if they just split these, I think they're in really good position now with this win. Kyle Huseman of HawkeyeReport.com, who's going to join us here shortly, has advocated for Iowa being a tournament team, even if they're one game below 500. And I was slow to jump on that train, but I do believe, without looking at all the other resumes combined, if this team is, what would that make them? If they were 8-10, they're 8-10 with a win against USC and no horrific losses. Like, I don't even know what games left would be horrific losses. Wisconsin at home, that would be a horrific loss on Senior Day. That would really hurt. That would be horrible. But Rutgers at home, that's probably not a good loss either, right, Kachine?
I can agree.
Bad one, but probably the Wisconsin one. Honestly, if they can avoid losing to Wisconsin and go at least 8-10, Tyler, I think they're in the tournament right now, and they may not even be on the bubble because I think people are really going to value this team, the program, whether you think that that's something that should be weighed or not, plus the value of this win against USC.
Now, I'm not a basketball expert by any stretch of the imagination, but just so I get this right, I take it to Indiana, Nebraska, both are Tier 1 teams. If we take at least one of those, then pretty much we're shooing for the tournament. Is that a reasonable?
They're 8-10.
Yeah.
If they're 8, if they win one of these next two, that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if they lose out after that,
Sure.
But reasonably, I think you can. If you split these next two, it's going to take a lot.
Okay.
If they lose these next two, and then lose it against Wisconsin, I don't know that.
Yeah, no matter.
Now, we're talking about because obviously I've seen growth from this team, especially after breaking that recent losing skid. How, in your opinion, has the coaching grown? Because before, when USC came storming back, I kind of got that feeling in my stomach like, oh boy, we're going to blow another lead. This is going to be another thing like the West Coast. And they withstood it. You credited coaching earlier with preventing a lot of from things from going completely dark. How has Jan Jensen and her staff grown recently, especially in light of today's win?
I would say two things: adjustments. I think that was one thing that we talked about a lot at the beginning of the season is the adjustments that were not being made, or not fast enough. Let's say that.
Okay.
And I think that adjustments were being made because everything happens. Our girls were kind of getting flustered. They started pressing. We had people in the wrong positions. It just was a lot of things going on, and our coaches were able to get everybody where they need to be in order to be successful. And then it was just the will of, I think, our players and our coaches as well, talking in the huddle and taking time with each player and things like that. Also, substitutions. I think that substitutions were a big thing. I was talking to Corey about, should we put Hannah back in? Should we not put Hannah back in that fourth quarter? And I'm like, if Addie keeps playing, my original thought was 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, Hannah needs to come back in. That was my thought process. Okay. But the way Addie was playing, I'm like, no, do not take her out, right? Because she was providing something that Hannah could not provide at that point in time. There are two different players. And to see Coach Jay make that decision was something that I thought was a growth spot. And her also putting in Aaliyah Guyton and playing her down the stretch, a freshman in that kind of environment with that kind of pressure is a testament to the coach believing in her players. So I think that her substitutions were also something that I think that she didn't go with her veterans, right? She went with people.
This is also an Aaliyah Guyton who went 1 of 9 and 1 assist, 4 turnovers. She hadn't played well to that point.
Nope.
So you can either look at that and say, why are you putting a player on the court in that situation who's playing that poorly? But like Kachine says, I think it's a bigger faith that is starting to develop with some of these younger players, namely Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Do you, as far as the players, I know, I think a couple of episodes ago, there was a lament that nobody is really stepping up into a leadership role. And then the team is turning around. Have you seen evidence of certain players stepping into that role, saying, okay, come on, we can do it, being able to rally their fellow players? And if so, who are those players?
I will say there's one person, although she got in foul trouble, the tenacity that I saw Hannah play with in that first quarter is something that I haven't seen consistently. Mm-hmm. She was very fiery. She was talking trash. She was very fiery. And that's not something I think we've seen. The energy was kind of radiating through everybody. I think that if you guys saw a lot that when something bad happened, there was a really tight huddle. It wasn't that there was, you're trying to gather people, things like that. There was a very tight huddle. Everyone was talking in the huddle, though.
Okay.
It wasn't just 1, 2, 3 people. Everybody was talking. I remember there was some kind of turnover, and they got into the huddle, and the camera kind of zoomed in, and Aaliyah's like, "Don't worry about it. Next play." There's, and then I think it was Sydney or somebody else said, "Yeah, we got it. You got it. You know what you're doing." And then they kind of went on and kind of that thing. So it was a multitude of people taking ownership of that responsibility and not being 1 or 2 people that it falls on. That's what I'm seeing. I could be wrong, but that is what I'm seeing at least.
Corey, are you saying about the same thing?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And by the way, before we get off this real quick, because it was mentioned here a couple minutes ago, Polish guy wants to know about Stolke sitting the entire fourth quarter. She got her 4th foul midway through the 3rd. And as Cash said, O'Grady went into the 4th quarter playing really well. And as long as O'Grady didn't need to be pulled, everybody's told me in the past when Jan would sit Addison 4 to 5 minutes into the game, well, she can't last for long stretches. She lasted literally the last 15 minutes of the game today. And I mean, maybe that's all adrenaline, but I think she stood the test of time as it relates to fitness, maybe more than she ever has. So anyways, I didn't want to go off of what you were talking about, Tyler, but I saw that in the chat and I didn't want to miss it. So
no, that's okay. One final question, and then I'll get out of the way because I know we got a lot of other people that want to contribute. And I feel comfortable asking this because this is slightly off subject, but given that it's Caitlyn Clark Day, I'll ask this. I followed Caitlyn into the WNBA. I'm an Indiana Fever fan now. And I've not experienced a signing trading season in the WNBA before. Is it always this crazy?
No, not at all.
This
This is
have you
insane.
ever seen anything like this before?
No, this is insane. This is unprecedented. Let's say that. We haven't seen this much movement in the WNBA in a long time. You've seen players that have been with these programs for, years. So this is a fun time, man. I'm excited for the W next season because there's just so many different movements, so many different teams. The looks of teams are going to be different. I'm very excited.
All right. Well, that's all I had. Have a good rest of the show. I'll be listening in, and we'll see you guys.
Tyler.
Thank you for not asking me about the Mavs, Tyler.
Oh,
appreciate it.
No, not at all.
Thank you, sir.
You're a Laker fan now, baby.
I ain't no Laker fan. I don't know what I'm a fan of, honestly. Can we just?
You're a Laker fan if you're a Luka fan.
This is an Iowa. This is an Iowa show.
That's all right. I'll wait to the end. Go ahead.
All right, we'll wait to the end. But I do have to address it. I do have to address it because as much as I don't want to, it's part of the grieving process for me. So Stacey Bolin in the chat says, so proud of the Iowa women's basketball team today. They killed it. And Patrick says, I wrote off Lucy as a big lights performer at halftime. And boy, did she show up in that second half in a big way. And again, she doesn't come out with her 28 along with, efficiency. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that stands out. That's been the bugaboo for her. She just has not been an efficient shooter. If anything, her three-point shot has been better, Kachine, but it's been everything inside the arc that has been a struggle, and that was not the case today. What did you see from her besides just confidence for some of those moves that we saw her make, especially in that third quarter when Iowa kind of took charge?
When you see the ball go through the hoop, sometimes it's just that kind of game. And for her, it was. She felt that ball go through the hoop, and it was like, oh, yeah, it's time to show out now. And that's really what she did. And it was in many different forms, like layups, defense, mid-range. She affected the game in so many different ways today, which is something that, like I said, I don't think we've seen this season.
Let's go to our next caller. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander, who's on the line.
Does my voice really sound that deep? My God. Go ahead.
Hello, you're on the air.
Crazy.
Oh, hi, it's Kyle Thompson.
Hey, Kyle. How you doing, buddy?
Good, you? Sorry about that.
We're doing good. Good to hear your voice.
That's great. That was a statement win today.
Statement win, buddy. You got it.
Stamp it.
Yeah. And I was really cool to see Carver like that for the women. Wish they could have more energy for the men's team. I really hope so in the future.
Well, if they fire Caitlyn Clark's future father-in-law, they might. But until that happens, I don't know. Imagine the politics of that, Kachine. If we talk, we haven't even talked about that. Not that I think like Fran has some master plan to stick around forever, but like how much is Iowa indebted to Caitlyn Clark? And if Caitlyn somehow marries Connor here in the next year, not that I care, but because that's her personal life, but they're going to fire Caitlyn Clark's father-in-law, like.
Yes, they are.
Anyways, go ahead, Kyle.
I really liked the class act during the ceremony where the whole USC team stuck around to watch. I really thought that was cool to see.
Class.
I absolutely agree, Kyle. I appreciate you.
Great class.
Bob brought it up in the chat earlier, but I was really surprised. I didn't notice that until Caitlyn mentioned something toward the USC bench. I just thought that was a phenomenal display, and maybe it's a situation where they anticipated winning, so it makes it a lot easier being out there. But they could have easily rerouted plans and left. They didn't do that, and I think that shows you the level of respect for Iowa and for Caitlyn Clark, probably from a number of places. Their head coach, obviously Juju. I agree. It was a great look. Good to see.
Yeah, and I would like to call this one. I know Lucy and Addie played great, but I don't know which one would you call it who had the better game. I would have liked to call this one the Lucy Olsen Addie O'Grady game for me.
Okay. The log game. Can we do that? That's a mix between Lucy Olsen and O'Grady. Okay, never mind. I'll take it, Kyle. Great game for both of them.
Yeah.
Anything else for Cash?
Yep. Just one quick question. I don't want to. What was your number at Iowa? What number did you wear?
21.
So one number short of Caitlyn.
I know, right?
Kyle,
I'll take it though. It's close.
you being here, sir.
Thank you. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
It's not like the Jordan versus, wasn't that the whole Kobe Jordan thing? Like one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
See?
Because after all, you are like Michael Jordan.
I mean, honestly.
All right. Lomansky, appreciate the super chat, Lomansky. Looking for Addison 14 feet out. Had to be a Coach J strategy. Flowers to the coaching staff. What's the
flowers to the coaching staff? Please put flower emojis in the chat because flowers to the coaching staff. Please sprinkle it. Yes.
Sprinkle the flowers.
Yes.
What's the key to getting her open looks out there in the mid-range?
Her movement up the lane instead of that way. I don't know how else to say that. Like when we drive, she went up instead of across. And so she was able to do that because when she went across, the defender was able to drop down in front of her sometimes. So her moving up the lane, she was open more.
Can I just say, she has turned, and I know it's easy to live in the moment. Addison O'Grady, and I went to bat for her the other night when we had a post-game show. All right.
Did you know?
Well, you like to say as did Kyle, but let me just say this. I'm not just living in the moment. Mm-hmm. She has gone from one of my least favorite players to watch in this team to one of my, I want to say favorite players to watch, but one of my favorite athletes on the team. Let me say that.
You call her athlete? That's so nice. Go ahead.
She's not one of the best players. Oh, nice. But here's what she's done, Cash. She has developed her game more than I ever expected. It was early last season that we all came to the realization, I think collectively as a fan base, this is just who Addie is. She's not going to turn into Monica Sonano. She's just not going to. But people expect that, just like people expected Riley Mulvey to turn into the next Luka Garza, or at least some form of a poor man's Luka Garza. And that's not who Addison O'Grady is, but what she's done is she's developed a better jump shot than Monica Sonano had at Iowa. She's developed a better jump shot than Megan Gustafson had while she was a center at Iowa. And that's kudos to her because that's something Hannah Stolke, as a 4, who's now having to play the 5, has not done. And here's the other thing about why I admire Addison O'Grady. And several players have had to be unselfish through all of this. But here's a player who has started on and off throughout her career. And this year, it looked like, okay, we're finally going to be able to get Hannah Stolke back to the 4. The 5 is Addison O'Grady's, and you're going to have a young Ava Hayden learning behind her. That hasn't happened. Why? Not due to anything Addison O'Grady hasn't done. In fact, she's developed her game. Like I say, she's better than she was last year. You could argue from the outsider's perspective, Kachine, Hannah's lack of development has hurt Addison O'Grady's playing time. In fact, I don't think it's really an argument. It's a cause and effect relationship there.
Yeah.
You can't have her off the court. We all understand that. We talked about it last show. But what Addison has been willing to do is take that backseat role, accept her role, and hit big shots in big moments. And again, the resilience from having a couple of games ago, big opportunity at a road win at Oregon, slipped through their hands off a missed shot from Addison. She hit some big ones tonight against a much better team. Lomansky, appreciate you super chat. Lonnie wants to know how it feels. I'm sure this is directed toward Cash. Out of curiosity, how does crow taste? See, I knew this was going to.
I don't know what that means.
Kachine, I'm telling you, I haven't gone through all the chat yet, but I'm sure people are going to come after you in the comments because of your reaction to the idea that Iowa might beat USC. We all know you said.
Okay, time out. Let's make this very clear.
Go ahead.
My reaction was the fact of realness. Will Iowa beat USC based off of what we've seen and based off of the caliber of players?
I'm not arguing.
However, I also stated, and somebody brought it up in the chat, that it is basketball. Any given person can win on any given night. That's what makes basketball so fun. Okay? I said that. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. Duh, I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan. But I'm also a realist. Let's be honest. And there's plenty of people that had hot takes today that was Iowa losing. So
yeah. Those weren't hot takes either.
No, not at all. Like what is that? What is the thing when people bet are over under or whatever the case might be?
Yeah.
Come on. Like whoever bet on Iowa, you just got a big payday. I should have done it. I should have done like $5 or $10 or something.
Yeah.
If I lost it, who cares, right? I'm not a gambler, but
I'm not either. Lemansky,
I do need to ask everybody that's here. Coach Jay and that coaching staff, specifically Coach Jay, have been hounded. People calling for her job, all kinds of things. So if you are on Twitter, do me a favor and shout out Coach Jay and give her flowers. I don't even care if you tell her that I told you to do it, but they deserve all of the love that they can take today, and just everybody's support, because it has not been an easy season. It has not. We know that, and they have stayed the course. They have worked with our freshmen. They have tried to figure this thing out, and their hard work was on display today. So go give them their flowers.
I don't think there's any serious people, any serious person that has called for her job.
They're serious people.
Well,
not
they
realistic people, but
people weren't being serious. I'm saying they are not serious people. Nobody.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm with you.
For Jan Jensen's job midway through her first season, following the biggest loss of contributions in the history of college basketball. Nobody's calling for her. But I see exactly what you're talking about, and those people will probably not acknowledge what you're saying anyways. But
is this the second best win after South Carolina?
No, okay. Absolutely not, because I beat LSU last year in the Final Four.
That's a big win.
Final Four win?
I thought we were going to beat them. Sorry. No. I thought we were going to beat them.
Well, what's that got to do with anything? It's still
in my mindset. Nobody thought we was going to beat these people.
You're biggest,
just like nobody thought we were going to beat USC.
Right, but language is very important. So biggest upset or biggest win?
Upset is fine.
All right. I'll agree with you on that. Second biggest upset after South Carolina. I have a hard time rating a regular season game as one of the biggest wins, but
upset. I'll take that. I will agree with you on that. We can go with that.
Pretty darn significant game though for the resume. This is a big season win. This is not like they're off the bubble, out of the picture, and this is just a feel-good win on Caitlyn Clark Day. No, this helps. They're now one win away from being back to 500, which again, big picture, I think is exceptional. Lemansky, thank you for the super chat. Flowers to the Hawkeye crowd. USC just got a taste of Carver magic in the Big Ten. And M. Finn also with the super chat. Thank you both. He says, he or she says, keep up the good work. Thanks to both of you. Go Hawks. Thank you, M. Finn. And Asa coming back with a super chat. Just think the recruits that witnessed this.
Big time.
Some big old recruits there. That's
big time.
Quite a day to have that again.
And I know it had to be loud in there. Ooh.
Oh, it was.
I know it had to be loud in there. Yeah, that's the atmosphere you want recruits at. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we can and I've said the same thing. I've felt like with the lack of student population at some of these women's games, that it affects the quality of a sold out crowd. I mean, I wasn't there in person, but it seemed like over the TV broadcast, it was as loud as Carver's ever been.
It hadn't been like shaking. I feel like if you weren't screaming as a recruit, right? Because you're just sitting there, you're watching the game, you're taking it all in. I feel like it had to have almost felt like it was in your chest because it was so loud. Does that make sense? Like it was just heavy, which is a crazy feeling. So they definitely won some recruits over that. They might have won deal not leaving. So there you go.
All right, we're going to go to our caller on the phone line. We're going to put you on a quick hold, and we're going to go to our caller on StreamYard. MK is with us. MK, welcome to the show.
MK muted?
Hello, we got you, MK.
Nope.
MK, one last. I can't hear. We can hear something, but we can't hear you. Are you with us?
I'll call back, MK.
Yeah, MK, if you get your audio fixed, shoot me. Okay, he says he's having tech problems. So MK, fix your issue if you can, and then call back in, and we'll get you back over the air. Let's go back to our call line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Chris in Wyoming.
Hey,
A
Chris.
very excited Chris in Wyoming.
That's understandable.
I would like to say, Kachine, if you came to my house for dinner tonight, I would not serve you crow. Okay?
Okay. Can somebody explain? I've never heard that before. What is that?
Wait a minute. You've never heard that expression?
Never heard that before.
You've never heard the expression, you're going to eat crow?
No.
Oh, that's why Cash was so confused.
That's why I was confused. I was like, what does it even
eating
mean?
your words.
I didn't know it was possible.
It's like
not to
eating
know
your
that.
words, you know?
Oh, I never eat
You
my
know what
words.
I
I
mean?
live on my
You
words.
say something somebody disagrees. Yeah.
This
If
is
you
like,
say something somebody disagrees with and it doesn't turn out that way, you got to eat crow.
Chris, real quick. This
And
is
I
like,
Okay.
hold
Yep.
on a second, real quick. This is like the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer's talking about the woman in the movie that came out of a coma. And he says to Jerry, I didn't know it was possible to come out of a coma. And Jerry says, I didn't know it was possible not to know that. That's exactly how I feel about what Kachine just said. I didn't know it was possible not to know what that expression meant. Chris, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I just have to say, I was hoping we would win today, but this game, especially the first quarter, I was just blown away. I thought we can actually win this game. You know, you saw the defense, you saw just how they came together, and you saw I really think it was the coaching. Whatever the coaches did to prepare these women for this game, it really did the job. So I was really proud of everybody and really, happy to be a Hawkeye. I was prepared, for something terrible happens in this game. You know what I mean?
And Kachine,
Yeah.
how much would you talk about coaching too? And so Chris agreed with you, but how much would you say this is just part of the learning process with a first-year head coach versus an excellent scout and execution on game day? There's got to be scouting.
No, this is simple. I'm gonna ask you guys a question, and you can answer in the chat, and Chris, you can answer now.
Okay.
Did our girls look prepared?
Yes.
There's your answer.
And they looked like yes, and they were prepared defensively. I mean, it was the defense that took control of the game right away. And, the stuff that was happening out there, it was just, wow. And we really knocked USC like off their game. They were frustrated. They were discombobulated. It was just amazing. So the other thing I saw in Jensen is fire, like I've never seen. Of course,
That's
I don't
true.
want
She was getting close.
There was yes,
She was begging
there
for a
was
technical
fire
foul.
there. Yes,
She was begging for a technical.
He was begging for a technical, and she's very fortunate they didn't call a T.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was hoping that they wouldn't.
Well,
I was hoping that they wouldn't. And I have to comment on the fourth quarter with Addie O'Grady in there. It's like, Addie, where'd that mid-range come from? All of a sudden, she's shooting those mid-ranges. And I felt like, Hannah was on the bench, but it would have been a mistake as I was watching the game and thinking, Hannah does not need to come in. It would have been a mistake. It would have affected something about the momentum of the game. That's my opinion.
that's what I told Cash.
No.
Because like I said earlier, she texted me and said, "Hey,
I did.
your thoughts on this? 5 minutes to go. You put Hannah back in." I'm like, "Well, if Addie's still playing the way she's playing right now, the answer is no. You just
Agreed.
don't. Unless she starts getting gassed and is not running up and down the court, or whatever. But with Hannah with 4, you didn't want a situation where Hannah comes back in with 5 minutes to go, picks up another foul, and then you're forced to go to Addison. And then if she struggles in that last 5 minutes, what do? You go to Ava, who hadn't played the whole game.
No, you can't do
So I
that.
thought it was well coached, and for the first time all season, I think the first time all season, we saw a substitution pattern that made sense today. So
Yes,
that's
it did.
probably the most encouraging thing to me from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian.
And just one more thing. Aaliyah Guyton sitting on the floor, keeping her dribble. Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to be fab. She already is fabulous, but it's just like, I can't believe my eyes. it was just a fabulous game all the way around. I think the only negative I have thought is like there was a point in the game where you could see, we were kind of USC was gaining on us, and we would get the ball, and it was like nobody really wanted to shoot. There were times like that, and that really bothered me.
There were a couple, yeah.
So
that's actually when I was like, Lucy, take charge. Like, I need you to demand the basketball.
Exactly.
In that scenario.
Yeah. All right. Well, great win today. It's great to be a Hawkeye, and I'm done.
Thanks, Chris. We appreciate your calls always.
All right.
I do have a. We'll get to that, Corey. Relax. So, I do have a something I've been thinking about. Right.
Real quick. Is it tequila? What is it? Go ahead. Go back to whatever you're going to say. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna have to text somebody to bring me a shot. So I've been thinking, guys, and tell me what you guys think about this. We know that Tegan Mullaney is not really. She ain't doing it for us, right?
Right now.
That means
right now. You're not saying big picture, like for her.
No, big picture. I'm talking about right now, season right now.
Right.
But Sydney is really our only 4. So my thought process is, what about when they put in Hannah at the 4 and Addie at the 5, that they run something different? I brought this up at the beginning of the season, but that was before Hannah even got switched to the 5, of doing the high-low, but with Addie at the high post, because she's very effective there. So they have to play her there. So now you have the spacing that you need to either hit Hannah down low for a high-low or a lob or something of the sort, or you've got spacing on the perimeter, because now you can load up one side and then get, a dribble drive the other way because nobody's there. I feel like we have to find another way because we don't have enough 4s. So
doesn't it come down? If
we do play Hannah at the 4, that's my thought process.
So does it or does it not still come down to hurting you on the defensive end? Like,
I don't think it hurts us on the defensive end. I think with Hannah, when Hannah was playing the 4, I think it hurt us on the offensive end.
It did, but I'm simply saying, first of all, if they're both playing, they're not going to both play 40 minutes a game. So what do you do?
Yeah, and there you got Ava. See?
Okay, so you were talking about bringing Ava back in, who's not been playing these last couple of games.
Right.
She's seen a second of playing time here.
I feel like we're going to get into trouble at some point when we only have 1 4. Because if Sydney Falter gets into foul trouble, what the hell are we going to do? Because then you're forced to play Tegan for an extended amount of time. I don't think anybody wants that. So if that's the case, we need another option. The only option I can come up with is to have flip-flop, should I say, Addie playing the 4 on offense, if y'all got me, and Hannah playing the 5 on offense. They can go play defense 5 and 4. That's fine.
All right. Yeah.
But on offense, that's what they're playing. That's my thought.
Yeah. For people that maybe don't think beyond the numbers, so to speak. Just because one's playing the quote unquote 4 on one end doesn't mean they can't switch roles on the opposite end. And they played, how much zone did they play today? Like if you went, I don't know if you could even estimate how many minutes of zone versus man defense today.
They played a lot in the 4th quarter. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can speculate that, but I feel like it was a lot, but I could be wrong.
And how would you rate Kylie, what she did on Juju early? Because you said pregame you thought she was going to be the matchup.
I did. Absolutely. I thought that Kylie used her smallness to her advantage. She got into her dribbling space. Because again, that's the problem when you're tall and you're dealing with somebody shorter. Everybody thinks about it on the other end. Oh, she can rise up above her. Oh, she can do this. But Kylie is right there where you're dribbling. And it makes it harder. So I felt like she did a really good job of owning that and knowing where she could not allow Juju to get to, or else she was cooked, if that makes sense.
I'm amazed. I mean, I'm not ripping Edward for this comment, but he says, great day to be an Iowa fan. but would have liked to have seen Hayden play. Like, I'm just shocked that that comment is being made. I'm not saying he's taken away from the win, but how do you say that after beating USC? I just, like, she's got 3 years in front of her, maybe 4 years if the NCAA changes up their eligibility rules.
People
But
just like watching her play. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's the best thing, and they just like watching her play. That's it.
I like watching Addison O'Grady hit mid-range jumpers. I'd like to see a post player that could actually shoot.
I didn't
That's
say it
why
was
I
logical. I just said that's what it is.
All right. We've got Kyle Huesman, HawkeyeReport.com with us. Kyle, live from Carver-Hawkeye Arena. I know it's been a long day from you.
I'm going to go get my shot. You guys have fun.
You go get your shot, Cash. Kyle, thank you for being here. I know it's been a wild day in Carver. I'm sure it's been a wild pregame, postgame, all of that. So thank you for taking a breath and for joining the show. We've heard from Kachine. We've heard from some callers, a ton of people, hundreds of people here in the chat. We got about just short of 800 people who are with us now watching live. Just give us your reaction to a win that I think many people viewed as improbable, and on a very emotional day with Caitlyn and so many other big names in the house. And then, of course, number 22 going up in the rafters.
Man, I mean, I'm going to need a beer when I get home after all this. It's about the best way they could have drawn it up, right? I mean, you put the script together of you're retiring Caitlyn's number, some former players back. You're playing Juju Watkins in number 4 USC, which is a brilliant opportunity. You talk about some of the recruits that were in the stands. The crowd from beginning to end. I don't think people went to the concession stands throughout the game. I mean, it was just packed the entire time. You couldn't have drawn it up any better. We kind of discussed what an opportunity this would be. Just with it being the number 4 team and where Iowa kind of sits on the bubble, what opportunities would be for them for this season. But I mean, we had our doubts, right? And we weren't sure that they were going to be able to stay in it the whole game, let alone win it. But I mean, just a fantastic game from Iowa to kind of do what they did early in the game to get a lead and then stick through it. I mean, we've seen them collapse in the second half of some games this year. They collapsed in the second quarter and let USC take the lead. But I mean, they stayed with it the whole way and pulled out a win that is really kind of season changing at this point.
Let's get Kachine back in here. Kachine, you got that shot. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it right now. You're muted, but you don't need to shoot right now. But drink responsibly. Don't forget that. But anyways, okay, Kyle. A couple things. Lucy was huge in that fourth quarter and in the second half in general. This team could have easily crumbled late in the second. I mean, I think momentum going into the locker room at halftime is maybe not overstated, but at times we see games like this where it's like, well, I think it more so comes down to how are you coached after those moments? Maybe it's just we look at it too black and white. Oh, this team got momentum versus this team lost momentum. But in this case, Iowa had no momentum heading into halftime. USC takes the lead basically at the buzzer. Things could have easily unraveled. And I just have to look at Kachine's compliment of the coaching staff, but also the leadership from Lucy with how she played in the second half. And even though Sydney Falter was not great with the ball at times today, got to the free throw line, made her free throws. She's always scrappy inside, always going to get steals. She's one of the leading stealers in the Big Ten. Just your thoughts on the leadership from the older players after a rough second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're looking at too black and white. I mean, going into the half there, you talk about what was it, 22-1 at some point, 21-1, something like that. I mean, to have that type of lead and get off to that good of a start, and then all of a sudden you look at it and you're down 29-28 at the half. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think that if that game would have ended by Iowa losing by 15, people would have said, yeah, they let the momentum slip in the first half, right? But obviously, whatever the message was at halftime, and whatever the some of those veteran leaders that stood up and said, hey, this has got to be the time that we've got to go create our break. Jan's been talking about that for weeks, right? Go create the break instead of hoping for a break. And they came out in the second half and just stuck right with it. I mean, that game could have easily kind of crumbled in the third quarter and said, hey, I mean, we had a huge lead in the first half. It's gone now. And maybe Juju takes over. Maybe Kiki takes over and they go win the game. But, I mean, as you said, Lucy Olsen had, I would say, her best game of the season. Washington was great with her not missing any shots there. But, I mean, that Lucy Olsen that we saw in the second half, 23 second-half points, that was Villanova Lucy Olsen, the Lucy Olsen that was third in the country in scoring last year. she, in a lot of ways, I mean, Addie O'Grady in her own right was good as well, but in a lot of ways, Lucy Olsen put the team on her back and was the one that kind of kept them in it. And they were able to get to the free throw line in the second half, and some times where they weren't, getting shots to go in, field goals to go in. They were getting to the line and hitting some free throws. But Lucy and Addie O'Grady were just fantastic in the second half, and Addie really in the fourth quarter. I mean, people have been on Addie at times this year, and I've been one to say, sorry, there's someone going about trash behind me. I don't have my AirPods in. People have been on Addie this year, and I've been talking about her success this year. I thought she's played a lot better than people have given her credit for, and today was another one. I mean, hitting some mid-range jumpers that we've seen her do at times, and made a couple of really good post moves to convert near the basket. But I thought you saw a couple of players in Lucy and Addie step up when the team needed them to be the ones to make the plays down the stretch to get this team the win. They were the two that stepped up and made the plays.
Yeah, for the record, these are second half stats that I'm throwing up here. 23 for Lucy. As Kyle mentioned, 8 of 11 from the field, made all 7 free throws, drew 6 fouls, and did not step off the court during that stretch. I do believe, and I know that there's a learning process. I know we went back and forth on substitution patterns. But, Kyle, I really do believe that what Kachine said earlier in this show is 1,000% true. We make mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. Jan has made plenty of mistakes with subs. I really do believe that. I think it wasn't an easy situation. Nobody's debating that. But it felt like she was – I don't know if it's just like a light bulb on moment or if it's due to the scout. We'll see if it continues here moving forward. They got 2 tough road games coming up. But she was just much more – she's becoming much more exact, pointed, deliberate with these substitution patterns, like playing Lucy for all 20 in the second half, not taking Addison O'Grady off the court when she's rolling there in the fourth quarter. Didn't you notice a difference, or was it just Cash and I?
No, I think some of it is over the last couple of games. Obviously, they're winning, and more players are stepping up and playing better. I mean, Lucy Olsen's played pretty well over the last 3 games. And I think a lot of when we were talking about, Jan's substitution patterns, it was kind of at a time where no one was consistent. We talked about Lucy was a little off. Hannah was still trying to play the 4, and it wasn't real consistent. And that makes it hard to sub. We talked about that at length, about how hard it is to sub when you don't know from a game-to-game or a half-to-half basis who's going to be the one to step up and be the leader and score points and things like that. So that's why some of the subbing was hard then. But I think you're right. There were a couple of big things today that you mentioned, not necessarily with substitutions in or out, but Lucy playing every minute of the second half was big. And I think you're exactly right with Addie O'Grady. They didn't turn to Hannah in the fourth quarter, and Hannah got that 4th foul right after I had just got done saying to Tom, I said, hey, I think they should just go to Hannah, because she'd been doing pretty good there in the third quarter, and then she picked up those 2 quick fouls. And we were discussing, some of us in the media area going into the fourth quarter, just, when do you bring Hannah back in? Do you want to go early? Do you want to see if you can wait it out a bit? And we kind of just thought that, you have to see how the game goes. And how does the flow of the fourth quarter dictate it? Do you fall behind? Do you get a lead? And I thought that was a perfect decision by Jan to leave Addie. At a certain point, I was thinking, okay, as good as Addie's playing, they're going to have to go to Hannah, right? You can't just end the game with Hannah not coming in. But Addie just kept making plays, and Jan made the perfect decision of just letting it go. I do think if USC would have made it close, they would have went to Hannah, just because you don't want to lose the game with Hannah on the bench. But Addie kept making plays, and Jan stood right by her and said, "We're going to keep you in. We're going to ride you at the center position." And Jan mentioned in the postgame show that Hannah was on the sideline, obviously not upset at all. She would have liked to be out there helping make the game-winning plays, but she said she was cheering her heart out on the bench for Addie making those shots. So I thought that was a huge decision to leave Addie in. When everybody in the entire crowd watching TV, everybody was saying, okay, when's Hannah going to come in? When's Hannah going to come in? It's got to be soon, right? And Jan just stuck with Addie, and Addie continued to make plays and help them win the game. But yeah, I think there were some, I didn't think they subbed as much. Exactly. I think when you look at the minutes, there's, Taylor Stremmel played 12 minutes and Tegan played 4, so not a lot there, but Aaliyah 27 and Addie 20. Then obviously the starters. I just didn't feel like there was the frequency of the subs. She was letting them play for a little bit and then getting the subs in. And I think that goes back to when you are getting a little bit more consistent play. You're not just throwing darts at a board and saying, well, hopefully this substitution, hopefully Sid, when I put her in, does something well, or good. Hopefully Addie does something, or hopefully Leah does something. It seemed like there was a little bit more consistency with the play of these last 3 games, which has given Jan the ability to ride some lineups a little bit longer, because they are playing decent basketball, and there are a couple people that are starting to hit their stride. But yeah, I thought those two, leaving Lucy in the whole second half and leaving Addie in for the entire fourth quarter, were the 2 big decisions.
Phrase I've used in the past, and you may disagree with this, Kyle, but I do feel like she's gotten a little too cute with the substitutions. And I'm sure part of that is not knowing who you can trust. But I do think there's value sometimes in riding your more experienced players in certain games, riding your younger players in other games. I never liked the jumbling, during a game. I'll be interested to see what this road trip is like with substitution patterns. And this is also a really emotional game and not a quick turnaround. They get a few days off, which is good. And these aren't long, these are bus rides, right? Minnesota, and I'm assuming they bus to Minnesota, Nebraska. Do they fly nowadays?
They flew to Nebraska last year.
Okay. Well, wow. Do they drive anywhere anymore?
They flew to Sioux Falls. They flew to Sioux Falls too. So I believe they drove to Illinois.
We used to drive to Illinois, Minnesota, and Northwestern.
Yeah.
And then everything else was flying.
All right.
Minnesota depends, and it also depends on when we played in Minnesota, like which day of the week and everything else. Sometimes we flew to Minnesota, but it depended on the schedule.
But to your point about more about the substitution, I think Jan said it a few times this season. I think she's been pretty open and honest with the media to an extent. I mean, she's not going to come in every game and say, here are the 10 mistakes I feel like I made. But I feel like Jan's been pretty open and honest with a couple of times saying, hey, I feel like, looking back, maybe I shouldn't have kept this defense on as much, or maybe I should have subbed in this situation. She said a few times, I feel like I messed up on a couple of things. And to a certain extent, that's expected. Even though Jan was an assistant coach, at Drake and at Iowa for 30 years or whatever it was, you still haven't been the one making the final decisions. So Jan was going to have that learning process of, when do I do certain things when I'm the final person making the final decision. I think we've seen her making strides as a head coach as the season's gone on. And obviously it's not tough it's not easy when you have a first-year head coach trying to make decisions, subbing decisions and other decisions when your team is also not playing real well and you're on a 3, 4, 5 game losing streak. So it kind of was a culmination thing to that. But I do think that as the season has gone on, Jan's gotten a little bit better. She started to learn from some things. She's learned, to leave some lineups out there and let things go a little bit to what you were saying. But yeah, I thought she did a really good job coaching. I thought their game plan was really good as well. I thought Kylie Feuerbach was fantastic early in the game on Juju. I don't know what they said to Kylie, but it seemed like kind of that, Kylie, you've got 5 fouls. Go get up on her. Go, try to steal it if you get a foul here and there. Try to draw a charge because, kind of similar to what Jan said about Caitlyn. The way that you get them to have an off night is you got to get in their head and make them start to get upset with themselves. It's not always what the defense does. You can put together a game plan, but at a certain extent, it's got to be the player themselves. And Kylie tried to draw a couple offensive fouls. They got called defensive fouls, but I think some of those things, when you've got someone up inside trying to knock the ball out every second, I think that could been one of the reasons why Juju maybe had more of an off day. She did a little bit better in the second half, but 1 of 7 from 3. I thought Juju took some uncharacteristic pull-up threes. That's not really her game. And they forced her to the baseline for a couple of jump shots too, which is not her shot. The baseline jumper is something she's been poor at this year. So I think they forced her into some shots that they wouldn't have liked. And that goes back to the game plan they put together. I thought they did a really good job.
Kyle, 2 more things from me, and we'll let you slide. Get back to your work over at HawkeyeReport.com. We appreciate your time. First of all, recruiting. A lot of people in the chat want to know about the impact this has. Certainly, we know some of the major names that were in attendance today. Can you kind of run through the recruits that were there and what sort of an impact, based on your experience following the sport, covering recruiting, do you think a win like this, an experience like this, crowd like this has for a team that's been average in the Big Ten, a little above average maybe? They're below 500 right now, but to have a moment like this on such a big recruiting day.
Yeah, so the big one that was here today, the headliner, if you will, was Kate Harpering out of Atlanta, Georgia. Father Matt Harpering played in the NBA for, I believe it was 11 years, played at Georgia Tech. She's the number 3 player in the country by On3 for 2026. That was an official visit today. So that was a big one. She obviously got a little bit extra stuff that you can be done on an official visit as opposed to an unofficial visit. So she got off the court stuff that, really get to immerse yourself in the program and see what it would be like to be an Iowa Hawkeye. Addison Bjorn is, I believe, number 10 in the On3 rankings. She's from Kansas City. She's 2026, more of a wing guard. And then Jenica Lewis from Johnson is the other 2026. I believe she's number 20 in the On3 rankings, so still a 4-star. She's good friends with Addison Bjorn. They both play on the All Iowa tag team. Jenica's a guard as well. They had Finley Chastain from Texas. I believe she's originally from Florida, but goes to high school in Texas now. She's 2027. She's a 4-star as well, a guard that was there today. And then Juliana Guy from Bettendorf, 2028 guard, was there today. So all really highly rated players. A couple of them are still in the younger stages of high school. But yeah, certainly Harpring and Lewis and Bjorn are ones that are going to be making their final decision in the next 6 to 8 months or so. I think the big thing to get Harpring for an official visit, because you just get to do the extra things that you don't get to do on an unofficial visit. But I think to your point about the atmosphere, I kind of was one that I don't think a loss today would hurt anything. There were a lot of people saying, what if the recruits all show up and Iowa loses by 25 or whatever. I was one to believe. I've always believed that days like this, you can't really lose anything. You can gain a lot by the way the game plays out and how the day goes, but you can't really lose anything because these players are smart enough. These recruits are smart enough to know that, USC is a really good team, and Iowa's maybe going through a little bit of a transition year. They're not going to let one game, if it was a 20-point loss, influence them and say, "Oh, Jan's a terrible coach, whatever. I don't want to go be at that program." Then you kind of lean back on, what have I learned about the program? What have I learned when I've been around the players and things like that? But to get to experience this crowd, fully 15,000 for all 40 minutes going crazy, getting the experience to win, getting to see the Caitlyn Clark ceremony after, I think that the way the atmosphere and way the game played out is going to have a huge impact on the recruits, because they get to see, especially the highly ranked ones, which they all were, I can be, they can think I can be a highly rated player and come play with an Addy deal who's already signed. And these are the crowds that'll show up, and these are the crowds that'll support us. So I think the crowd can have a huge impact, and it certainly helps when you see that Iowa team go and beat USC. So I'm curious to see what comes out of it. I don't expect any decisions coming soon. As you start following and recruiting the higher ranked, your high 4-stars and your 5-stars, they tend to wait towards the very end to make their decisions, because they're going to do their due diligence with their official visits and things like that. So for the people that are expecting, let's hope that someone commits tomorrow or something, I don't foresee that happening. But I do believe that today and the way it played out with the atmosphere and the win certainly can have an impact on them and shows what kind of support they'll get if they come to Iowa.
Bigger upset win today or the Iowa LSU game in the tournament last year?
Bigger upset? I would say that I would put Iowa South Carolina at the Final Four before LSU.
No, I would too. But I'm saying, because Cash said, we were talking about this earlier, top 2 upsets of all time would have to be South Carolina, and then either, I would think, LSU last year or this. I don't even know. What was the line for that LSU game in the Final Four last year?
I don't think that was that. I mean, Iowa, I don't think people – it was close, right? I don't think Iowa was a big underdog. I wouldn't even call Iowa beating LSU necessarily a big upset. I mean, I believe I picked Iowa to win the game, if I remember right.
Did you pick them to win again today?
No, I did not pick them to win today. I had them losing 77-66. I thought they were going to stay in it. I said before the game, I said if they can get to the fourth quarter, I do think that the crowd has the ability to make an impact and be kind of that one to help close it out. And I do think USC had some trouble with how loud it was in their communication, things like that. I would say, I don't know, you said all time, I don't have enough Iowa women's basketball history knowledge to know all the way back to game 1 of the program to see it. But I think Iowa South Carolina's got to be number 1. I mean, this is a big one. I mean, Iowa, I know it opened at like 8.5, but I don't know what it got up to, like 14.5, 15.5 points. That's a big upset to be able to pull something off like that. So yeah, easily the second of my time covering Iowa, and it would probably go back a while before you'd have something that would even be near that. But I would say right now, to my knowledge, Iowa, South Carolina, and this one against USC would be the top 2 that come to mind for me.
Kyle Huseman of HawkeyeReport.com. Kyle, hard at work over there, part of the On3 network and his team with Tom Kakert, Blair, and the team. So, Kyle, what can people find if they go over to HawkeyeReport.com and subscribe post-game and pre-game heading into the Minnesota one?
Yeah, we're going to have plenty of video from, Caitlyn Clark's press conference before the game. I believe is already up. We got to talk to her for 10 minutes or so. We'll have video from the ceremony. There'll be extended coverage of the ceremony video if people want to watch that weren't at the game. We'll have video from press conference. We got video of USC's press conference if you want to hear from Lindsey Gottlieb, the head coach for USC, Juju, Kiki Iriafin was there. We'll have video from Iowa's postgame, and then I'll have my kind of game recap going through some quotes from Iowa players and coaches, and kind of how the game went down. I'll probably rewatch this game tomorrow. I've got a busy day tomorrow with some baseball stuff that's going on, but I'll have my top takeaways about the game tomorrow. Then obviously we'll move on to Minnesota, and I'll have some pre-writing stuff come up with some stats to know about that, and then obviously a preview coming up on Thursday for that game. But yeah, the last thing for me is we've talked about Iowa being on the bubble for a couple weeks now, and for the NCAA tournament. I think this win, if it comes down to a couple teams, this win will get Iowa in easily. I think you go beat Minnesota on the road on Thursday. I think it would take quite the collapse to not make the NCAA tournament. We were talking about, win at Minnesota, and if you split Michigan and Nebraska, I think you're in. I think this win being a top 5 win is enough to do an awful lot. And like I said, I think winning on Thursday at Minnesota can get, I wouldn't say locked, but I would say without really trying to miss the tournament, I think they would be in if they can get that one against Minnesota.
With the exception being just collapsing and losing the rest of their games, Kyle.
Yeah, without losing like a Rutgers or a Wisconsin or something, I don't know.
Rutgers at home, Wisconsin at home. Like if they go out and they lose these next 2 road games and then drop one of those 2, I'm not going to be feeling very good, regardless of the results in the other games. With the exception of like if they go beat UCLA.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, this is what we said. We talked about this a couple of days ago. We said here's the path to get in. Hey, if they go beat USC, that changes things. But yeah, the same way. But yeah, I mean, this game does just an incredible amount of help. And like I said, I think a win at Minnesota on Thursday you'd have to, like I said, I think you'd have to try to miss the tournament if you go and beat Minnesota on Thursday at that point.
Are you going to Minnesota?
I'm not. I don't know that I will be going to another road game this season.
The Barn.
I'll be at the tournament. So
she knows this being a Minnesota native. I think the Barn is a great college basketball.
Oh, I've been there. I was there a couple of years ago when Iowa won like 105-49 and outscored Minnesota like 50-10 in the second half. I love Williams Arena. If you're a person that likes the updated, architecture, things like that, Williams Arena is not for you. But if you're a basketball fan that just likes the thought of being like, oh, this was built like 1900, it's a fantastic place.
Like Indiana.
I love the Barn. But yeah, I would have thought about going out there. I got friends coming for the Super Bowl over the weekend, so it's going to be tough to get back after the game. And
honestly, Pinnacle Bank is like the polar opposite. Another great venue, but it's such a new looking arena because it is. Those are 2 very opposite arenas, and they're very good teams. I don't know that they're great. Either one of those teams is what I call
Carver North.
They're playing.
Yeah, well, Minnesota just played USC tough on the road. So they've certainly they've had a pretty good year. They haven't really gotten a signature win. But what I will say is this: now that Iowa has gotten this win, you do worry about is there going to be a hangover into Thursday? They do get an extra day because I don't know how the Big Ten schedule works. They very well could have played on Wednesday. I'd assume there are a couple of Big Ten games on Wednesday, which then you may have worried a little bit more. But they are going to get that extra day to kind of take a little bit from this game and then have time to prepare and kind of let this wear off. But yeah, you always, when you get a win like this, you always worry about the hangover effect. I don't know what Minnesota's crowd will be like. If it's not super full arena, then you have an extra level of, hey, if you got to create your own energy, that type of game.
You don't think Iowa?
They've got to come out with full.
You don't think empty seats will be filled by Iowa fans after today? I think Iowa fans will fill that arena even on Thursday night. I mean, they not fill it to the brim.
No, that's certainly if Iowa can get a decent following there. I don't know what Minnesota's following has been like this year. I haven't watched much Minnesota ball. I watched them at USC, which didn't help. But yeah, I think Iowa fans will travel. But again, unless there's enough fans that can really help you there, it's again going to be one of those where you just maybe if it's a little quiet, you got to create your own atmosphere or your own energy, that type of thing. But anytime you get a big win like this, you got to make sure that you got to come out and start well against Minnesota, because Minnesota's certainly good enough to beat Iowa if they're not at their best.
They have had sleepy road games. Penn State on the road on New Year's Day at noon was an example of that. So Kyle Huesman, HawkeyeReport.com. Kyle, appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. All right. Cash, how you doing?
I'm great.
What you got? You got this little shot primed up. By the way, I'm not the one advocating for this, but you
put it on the screen.
I did not. No, you laughed at it. You're the one who said it over the air.
I laughed. No. All I said was hot, Brian. That's all I said. I didn't say anything else.
Last show.
And you said it. Put it right on the screen. You could have left it, let it slide off into the sunset, but no. Corey had to put it on the screen. Then everybody started to remember.
Look, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, this win, you got Caitlyn Clark's jersey being sent up into the rafters. You've got Nico Harrison burning this jersey. You've got Mavs fans revolting in Dallas. And then you've got Kachine Alexander on the verge of taking a shot. So is this Apple Crown? Is that what you're drinking here? Is that what that is? Apple Crown?
Yeah.
But it's Apple, right? I saw when you walked in. Okay. All right.
Of course.
So are we going to do I don't have a drum roll. Or are we just going to,
There's no drum roll. I'm just going to say, cheers, Hawkeye fans. You guys deserve it. Great job today if you were in the stands cheering us on. So this one's for you. Boop.
Okay. And if Kashine's not with us in a few minutes, is because she got a little sleepy. So, are you a whiskey?
I'm not that damn old.
I mean, I know it's Crown Apple, but are you a whiskey person? Are you I
can do whiskey. I don't like tequila though.
Okay.
Tequila had me dancing on tables. I can't do tequila.
We don't need that. Best is Apple your favorite crown? Best crown.
There's so many new ones this year. I haven't tried them all. I've tried peach and I've tried apple.
Blackberry. Have you done the blackberry?
I've not tried that.
Okay, it's harder to find. It's harder. I don't even know that it's in stores. So
yeah, I can't do tequila though. Tequila, no. Tequila don't work for me.
We'll assume that's water in your bottle, by the way. Okay, so couple things before we go to our next caller. Bobby with the super chat. Bobby, thank you. What a game and environment to have the 2026 number one recruit in the nation, Kate Harpering, in attendance. And we talked to Kyle Huseman here a few minutes ago. Hopefully you stuck around for that, Bobby, but we do appreciate your super chat donation. Lemansky with the super chat, number 22 in the rafters. However, number 21 is in our hearts too. Oh, that's so nice, Lemansky. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
That's my guy.
Patrick, we appreciate Patrick Wilson as well with the super chat. Was this game the bridge game between the Caitlyn era and the post-Caitlyn era? I think this is potentially a new women's basketball powerhouse. Wow. Patrick is on the horsey after this team climbs back to 5-6.
Patrick is galloping. You hear me?
Not taking shots at Patrick, Kachine, but do you have a comment on this presumption?
No comment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the enthusiasm though. I love that, Patrick.
Maybe Patrick's right, and we'll all be taking shots. Tell you what, if in a year from now, Patrick, Iowa's preseason top 10 because they're a new national power.
Listen, Patrick just took a shot with me, so he is good in my book.
I will take a shot as well if that happens. So, Patrick, thank you for the super chat. And Lonnie says she's just messing with you. So we appreciate Lonnie, and we appreciate the super chat. Chris.
Was he the one that said the crow thing? I think so.
Yes. She's the one that we
had. Well, listen, you taught me something new, so thank you.
You did learn something new.
I learned something new. I love learning new things.
It's amazing to me, but we'll just take it as we go. Chris, thank you for the super chat, Chris. We do appreciate that. Great win. Go Hawks. And Greg Young, not to be confused with the Greg Young car dealership that is not sponsoring the show. Thank you, Greg, for being part of the show and for your comment. If you intended to leave a comment, it's not there. I will do my best to track it down, but sometimes some technical issues from getting the super chats in here. Let's go to, we got several people on hold. We got several people on hold for Cash. I think most people I want to talk to you. Number 21, not me.
I'm here for you and your Dallas Mavs jersey. Go ahead.
Hey, nobody's brought that up. The only people that have brought that
Somebody
up.
will. Don't worry.
Well, no, look, people have brought it up. I mean, T. Hink says.
I text you at 2:00 in the morning.
Wellness, as did Kyle, as did several people. Not the only person. T. Hink, Corey is alive after the wellness check. Cyhawk C Money. We need to grieve. M. Finn says the Chiefs just traded Mahomes to the Lakers.
That's a good one. I like that one.
We'll do that here in a little bit. Let's go to Savannah, who's on hold with us. Savannah, welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Cash, if you want a good whiskey drink, salted caramel Crown Royal.
Ooh.
Okay. So I love salted caramel in general. Cookies, anything salted caramel. I did not know they had that.
Is that
they
easy?
do.
Is that an
It's
easy one?
normally in the fall time though.
Okay.
Well, I gotta look. My birthday is coming up, so I gotta go look for that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen that.
And
Blackberry.
Corey, when I saw Luca go to the Lakers, I thought of you right away. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people that watch this show did because I was getting tagged, and yeah. Again, when I get a chance to sound off on that later, I will. But I appreciate the condolences. I appreciate the wishes, the well wishes.
No, my hot take definitely didn't make it. I said that they would get like 10 threes. They would beat USC, which I won, and then they would have 10 under for turnovers, and that definitely happened. It did not happen, but I feel that they're putting too much pressure on this team, like compared to the last couple seasons, and I really feel bad because whole new team, pretty much new coach. They just need to be given a break. And I'm an Iowa girl. I live like in a very small town, 35 minutes away from Iowa City. So,
What town is that?
Durant. I'm 10 minutes away from I-80 truck stop.
Okay.
I know that.
So you're east of Iowa City.
Yes.
Okay. I can agree with what you just said about the pressure thing. I think some of that was going to be inevitable just with everything Caitlyn brought. Like people don't.
Yeah.
I think the
People
highs
are used to a certain thing.
Yeah, it's people realized it was going to be different, but you don't realize how different until there. I think the comment here a few minutes ago about this kind of being a bridge game. I don't know if that will pan out the way maybe we envision it, but no, I think that's fair. And what was your first comment, Savannah? I had something to add to that.
My hot take definitely didn't make it again this year or this time.
Your only hot take that mattered was Iowa was going to beat USC. That's
Yes.
the only one that mattered.
Speaking of hot takes, I have a couple. Kelly, my girl Kelly, she said Lucy was going to have more than 20. Bingo, bingo. Did that. McCabe, she had more than 3 threes, right?
No, she had 3.
Yeah, boom. She said 3 or more. So
Okay.
Kelly got 2 of her hot takes right. The other ones weren't, but it's okay. Barbara Clark said 3 players are going to be in double digits. I'm pretty sure it was 3.
Not really
Sydney, Lucy, and Hannah had 10.
Wait, hold on. 3 Barbara, 3 players in double. That's not a hot take. Now, if you had said
It's a
5
hot take.
players,
It doesn't matter. She said it.
she
So,
okay.
and C.A.T, I don't know, Cat, maybe, whatever. He said that we was gonna upset them. That was it. That was all he said.
The only one that matters.
Upset. I'll take it.
I will take it as well. And for the record,
Congratulations, hot takes.
how we were talking about second half Lucy. Kachine, how about first half McCabe? How about first half McCabe?
First 3 minutes, McCabe.
No, she made a 3 in the second quarter. 3
Okay,
threes.
okay, well, her first 2 was like bing, bang, bang. Like
They were. You see her reaction, her body language after that first one went in, because we went several possessions to start the game with nothing on the board.
Correct.
And then she hit that big 3, and you could just tell. And how you played in maybe not this level of a home crowd at Iowa, because the Iowa basketball team. How big is it to have a start like that? I know they blew the lead, but to ride the momentum
start
in the first quarter.
That was, I mean, I don't know anybody else, but it was like 3-1. I'm like, okay. And then it went to like 7. And I was like, okay.
There's a timeout in there. They're right.
Then it hit 11. And I was like, what we got going on here? And then it ballooned to 18. And I'm like, there's no way we're almost up 20 right now. It was almost like disbelief. Like a little bit after. I'm like, no, there's no way. What is happening? But it was like such excitement and energy running through me watching it. That was like the best quarter of basketball I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
My poor husband is not a sports person, whether it's men's, women's. He's just a country boy hunting, fishing. He puts up with me so much. I'm pacing, I'm yelling, I'm screaming at the TV. It doesn't matter what it's football, basketball, tennis. I'm a sports person. I give it to him because he puts up with it. I'm like, I'm overtaking the TV today. He's like, okay. This game was amazing.
It is possible to be country and be a sports fan.
It is, like, because I'm a country girl.
Yep.
But he's one of those country boys that fishing, hunting, that type of thing that's not into sports, and I'm lucky he deals with me.
Well, I think a lot of families have their winters have changed as it relates to time obligations here in the last couple of years.
I do have one question though. Like last year, Gabby Marshall was not doing well on her threes until March. I've been seeing the same thing with Kylie Feuerbach. Her defense is there, but her threes aren't there. Do you think when it comes to March, she'll do the same thing where her threes start hitting?
That solely depends on how much work she's doing off the court. Like, we knew Gabby was shooting a lot, off the court. She just was trying to get the feel for in-game. And even the players last year were talking about how she makes them all the time in practice. Like, she just needed to kind of get over that hump. I have no idea what Kylie is doing off the court. But if she is still shooting at a high clip off the court, like off practice, and she's putting in the reps, that's always a possibility because it just takes one good game for you to kind of start moving. So it really just depends on what she's doing off the court. I hope so. It'd make our lives easier.
That's all I've got. Thank you so much for taking my calls.
Appreciate the call. Casey Blue, defensive player of the game. Kylie Feuerbach. Would say she deserves that because is Juju the best player in the country right now?
No.
Who's the best player in the country?
Hannah Hidalgo.
Okay. Where would Juju rank?
Oh, heck. You know what? That's really hard because Lauren Betts is amazing.
They're just different players.
They are. That makes it hard. But if we're talking guards, I'm going Hannah Hidalgo over Juju.
Okay. We have got a couple people here still waiting on hold. Looks like we got one still on the phone line. We have one person here on. We got Mr. Corey, who I also believe I saw a flash of a Crown Royal bottle. So we can either I don't want to say get him out of the way now, but we can either allow Corey to have the floor now with his Crown Royale, or I can't listen. This is a family show, people. It's a family show.
We just beat the number 4 team in the country, Corey. Whatever. We're not cursing on here, so I mean, honestly.
Oh.
And all of these people are having a little drinky drink at home, anyways. So it's all right.
They are. And next Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday.
Hey, see?
Next Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. All right. We'll go to
mind your business. Timothy, mind your business. Mind your business. Keep going.
I don't know. Look at Timothy's comment. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Kelly Emerson. How are you?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Yo, I had to call in since you called out my hot takes.
I did.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with myself except for that last one, and I'm glad I was off on the last one.
You did say that though.
Yep. I just got to say, of all the games that I've been in Carver the last couple of years, that is by far the loudest I've heard it. My ears are going to be ringing for a couple days. Wow. It was amazing.
Well, that says something. And I'm curious, Kelly, for the average fan that maybe doesn't get to go to as many of these Iowa women's basketball home games, what is an average student crowd? I mean, how many students do you see there? I know it's a different.
There's a lot of students there. We love that.
Today the student section was full. Now, typically, especially this year, I would say that section probably hasn't even been half full, maybe a third.
Okay.
So today was definitely different. But
that does cut down on noise. That does cut down on noise significantly. But it was loud. I mean, believe me, Kelly, you could tell on television that it was loud. And I made the comment. It says it was as loud on television as I can remember hearing it. And I've been in Carver for a lot loud men's games. And
Yeah, that is, especially in that first quarter, it was insane. I mean, I think everybody was just so amped up, and just seeing how well we were playing and how badly USC was playing, it was just unreal, unlike any game I've been to there, I think.
Well, I haven't talked about it yet, Kelly, but I'm going to make a comparison later in the show to Caitlyn Clark that I think people will appreciate. But how special was it to see, as somebody who was there, because you're the first person that's called in and said, hey, I was there today. How special was it to be able to stay for Caitlyn Clark's ceremony and to see that jersey go up in the rafters?
Oh, it was awesome. And where my seats were, so I'm directly behind the hoop, right where the jersey went up. So we had the best view of the actual jersey going up. But it's something I'll never forget. And, so many people were recording on their phones, but yet trying to watch it on the big board and trying to look at her down on the court. It was just so cool, so surreal. It was just awesome.
Great stuff. Kelly, anything else for Cash?
And I also admire USC for sticking around and watching that.
Yep. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. I think it was a classy thing, and I had the same thought when they showed the whole bench on television. It's not something I expected, nor were they obligated to do. So I think that says more about the staff.
Yep, for sure.
Well, Kelly, drive safe, and we'll talk to you for a future. Are you going to make any of the road games this next week?
No, probably not. No.
Okay. Well, we'll talk to you after another home game here at some point soon, hopefully.
All righty.
Thanks,
you.
Kelly. Appreciate it. Appreciate Kelly calling in following the trip to Iowa City. And again, historic day for everybody that was there. I'd love to hear from more people, those that have been in maybe other raucous atmospheres in Carver in past years and how this compared. Yeah, incredible. Let's go to, before we go to our next caller, Greg. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your super chat here. Sorry, that was my first ever super chat anywhere, so rookie mistake. It's okay. Happens to a lot of people. What I had said was kudos to the Carver crowd today. They came ready to rumble. P.S. The Iowa pep band sounded great today, too.
I love the pep band.
They're my favorite. How do the players feel about the pep band?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but we love the pep band. They were the best. Like, hands down, the best. I love our pep band. I hope they're still the same.
Thank you, Greg, for the super chat. Second super chat, actually. Bobby, Cash by quarter grades. First, A+, second, D, third quarter, B+, fourth, A. Add it all up, you get one of the biggest upsets of the season. Cash, thank you for being so engaging. We're lucky to have you here. Thank you. Would you agree with Bobby's?
No, those are mine. He asked me on Twitter after every quarter.
Oh, okay. Yes,
yeah, he asked me after every quarter what I graded each quarter.
I might give him a better grade than a B in that third. I
struggled because that's when we struggled with that dang press. And I was like, ooh.
The things could have really come apart, Kachine. They had the lead going.
That's why I gave him a B+. I couldn't have gave him an A- though, because A- means we separated. We ain't separate into the fourth quarter. That's why I did a B+, because I struggled though, but that's why I did it, because I felt like we didn't separate, but it was high enough because we could have come apart at the seams.
Yeah.
That's where I was at with it. But nonetheless, hey,
for the record, whenever I go after Kachine for a take, it's tongue in cheek, but Julie says Kachine tells it like it is, that the favorite team always won. Why watch the game? Amanda says no one's coming after Kachine. Well, let me just say that. Let me just say this.
Oh, Amanda, I love her.
It's because it's Kachine Alexander. If I had went on the air and said this team had no chance against that, which you didn't say that.
No.
You didn't say that, and I wouldn't have said that either. But people
are
coming after me a lot harder than they're coming after you.
Crazy.
But that's okay. You've earned it. Let's go to our caller. Let's see. We have one person on the phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Am I on the line?
You're on the air.
Thank you. Thank you. I have enjoyed listening to you guys. I apologize. I've got an awful cold.
That's okay.
So if you can't hear me.
We hear you loud and clear.
Years ago, a group of friends. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
we got you loud and clear, ma'am.
Years ago, I'm watching you and listening, and it kind of doesn't jive time-wise. Years ago, I used to go with a group of friends, and Kachine, I watched you play. And I can't remember, was it under C. Vivian Stringer?
No, I was still Lisa Bluter. Thank the Lord. Well, yeah, I was still kind of in her earlier careers, I guess.
Well, I had nothing but respect for her. One time Megan Gustafson and I ended up getting our cars repaired at the same time. And she said, Lisa Bluter is the real thing. She said
is.
she's every bit as gracious and lovely as she seems.
Mm-hmm.
I am a total fan. I went to Iowa State for my undergrad. I'm a fan of Iowa State, except for women's basketball. I'm
Okay,
100%.
we can roll with that.
And here's my question for you. I don't know enough about basketball. I just found out what setting a pick means. I've looked at games, but I asked a lot of questions, and I'm not afraid to ask questions. Don't understand. Can you tell me any ideas of resources of how can I learn about, like people talk about playing the 1 position or playing the 5 or 4. I don't get that. Do you have any idea?
Great question. This is a great one for you, Kachine. You were not expecting this question, but it's a good one for you.
No. So, I'm going to tell you guys a funny story, and it's a funny story, and it's about my mom. So my mom was my first ever basketball coach. Now, me being Kachine Alexander, and if you know me, you know I'm kind of a wild card. So I was in 4th grade, and I came home from school. I was so excited, and I was like, Mom. She's like, yeah, what? And I was like, oh, I signed up for basketball. And my mom was like, okay. And I said, oh, and I signed you up to be the coach too. My mom had no idea about basketball. Like, zero idea. Like nothing. So she took me and we went to the library. We went and we picked, because that was back in the day now. You can find it online. But she went and picked up every basketball books. They got basketball for dummies now at this point. They got the dummy books for everything under the sun. Like you can go pick it up any day. But she got all kinds of basketball books, like everything. Now everything's online now, so you can go YouTube, you can go Amazon, you can do anything you want. But I remember because she was just like, how in the heck am I going to teach these girls how to play basketball? And I don't even know the rules. I don't even know what to do. So she bought the book. She's my first coach. And my mom actually was the first person to teach me the jump stop because we was traveling all day long. We was just running with the basketball. So my mom was actually the first person to teach me the jump stop. So I always say, if you're looking to try to, better your knowledge and things like that, books are always a good resources. There's a lot of things on YouTube of people talking about basketball. The more you can infuse your brain with basketball talk, the more you'll start to understand it a little bit better. But starting from the jump of the basics, what is this? What is that? What are the positions? Things like that. You could do that. Google is your friend. If you hear something that you don't understand, just try to Google it, and I promise you something will pop up. So, but yeah, I'm a firm believer in books and trying to figure out different things in that nature. But yeah, I mean, I'm just happy the fact that you even want to learn, because that's awesome. So kudos to you. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I was impressed with the game today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with the game today. and how gracious USC was to stay and listen to the ceremony, and how gracious Caitlyn is or was to acknowledge Juju and how good they played. And I just thank you. Oddly, I ran into AC Earl one time in a grocery store, and he's got some kind of website with information on it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do it, but I want to find Basketball for Dummies.
I remember that book vividly because I was a kid, right? So like in my mindset, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like I remember that book like yesterday, yellow with black writing. I remember it like it was yesterday. But there's so many different kinds of books out there, and I'm sure that's probably different now too because the game has changed so much since I was in 4th grade. So I'm sure it has evolved, and now it's, you know, more in depth about the world in the basketball world and, you know, how they do things now. But
well, thank you so much. And I joke with people, this is true, but I joke with people. My claim to fame is I met Caitlyn Clark for 4 seconds. So,
we love that for you.
You're 4 seconds ahead of where a lot of people would like to be. So
okay.
Absolutely.
You
feel better.
I stumbled into you guys and I thought, oh my God, that's Kachine Alexander. And then I also, there's a wonderful African-American woman that does, she's often very pro fever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name now, but I love her. So thank you. And you guys have a good day. Thank you, both of you.
You as well. Get to feeling better. Thank you for the call.
Feel better.
Good call. I think she left a voicemail on the studio line here a few weeks ago, and I had every intention of getting her called back. And so, by the way, if you've had, people do that, voicemails on the studio line, and I don't always get you called back. I try to listen to every voicemail, read every text. So, although again, if they're about the Mavs, trying to rub it in, I don't know what certain people here in the chat, like James, who's a premium subscriber. I mean, he's left this same message like 5 times. Like, why do you keep? Yes, I know the Mavs they were down 50-19 at halftime. No, 50-19 at the end of the first. They lost 144-101. The franchise is, I've never seen anything like it. I've never experienced anything like it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's the to said it. I don't really need to say it. It's the worst trade on paper in the history of the NBA, and it's not close, folks. It is not close. Luka Doncic didn't know it was happening. LeBron James didn't know it was happening. If Luka Doncic didn't know it was happening, I guarantee you Kyrie didn't know it was happening. Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. Now, some of those guys were traded in, right? Gaff and PJ were midseason trades last year. Klay came to play with Luka. Kyrie came to play with Luka. The idea that you're treating Luka as a dispensable part of your franchise and not what he is, which is the face of the franchise and a guy who was in line to have a statue erected next to one of the greatest players to ever play the game in Dirk Nowitzki in years. He hasn't even entered his prime. He's had 5 or 6 All-NBA seasons. He's coming off his best season statistically, where he was probably, if he had stayed healthy this year, was in line to win the MVP, because that's usually how the NBA MVP works. You have a
Defense
great
wins championships, Corey.
Excuse me? I don't know what to go ahead. Okay. Listen, here's the only thing, and I'm going to say this right now. Unless we find out that Luka Doncic has a very serious health problem, like lupus,
that calf strain ain't really a calf strain, is what you're saying?
Like lymphedema. I don't know what it is, but if there's, it's a calf strain. Unless there's something off this planet that only Nico Harrison knows about, he has set himself up to make the dumbest move in the history of pro sports. The dumbest move. I've never ever. I mean, literally, I woke up this morning thinking,
You want my hot
that,
take?
that was just a nightmare. You go ahead and give hot takes. Go ahead.
I feel like the NBA did this to garner viewership. Because guess what I'm watching? I haven't watched one NBA game this year.
But
But
you're not.
guess what I'm about to be watching?
You're not the only one who said that. But explain to
I'm
me
just curious.
why would Nico Harrison do that? Explain to me why the Mavs GM would do it.
All I'm saying is maybe that it is going to garner so much viewership because I'm curious. I want to see Luka with LeBron. I honestly want to see AD with Kyrie and everybody. Like I want to, and then they play each other 225. I already looked it up. I can't wait.
Well,
I got to start on the calendar.
That's if Luka and AD are both healthy. But my question to you is, how does it? You can say the NBA did it for ratings. How does it benefit the Mavs? Why would the Mavs do it? Are you saying the NBA somehow paid off Nico Harrison below the table to make the dumb?
Honestly speaking, I think that the Mavs. This is hard. Let me say this. I think the Mavs win the trade immediately, right? Like I feel like you still have Kyrie, you still have Klay Thompson, you have now AD, who's he's still a bucket. So we'll leave that where it is, right?
Yeah.
The Lakers still need another piece.
They don't have a single big guy.
That's what I'm saying. They need another piece.
Yeah.
I understand nobody is gonna say, nah, I'm not taking Luka. Like you're gonna take him and you're gonna just build around your team later. So I'm not mad at them for the later aspect. It's gonna benefit the Mavs, quote unquote, earlier than it will the Lakers as far as a whole.
Yeah. I agree with that.
However, the weirdest trade ever.
They just went to the NBA Finals with a healthy Luka and only got better in the offseason. When Luka was healthy this year, they were rattling off wins. Okay? They were rattling off wins. He just, regardless of conditioning and, he was out of shape and he didn't want to work, he's taken them to a Western Conference Finals and an NBA Finals, and they've only gotten better around him since then. Okay? The Lakers now can build around Luka Doncic for the future, regardless of when LeBron hangs it up. Now they have the new face of their franchise in Luka Doncic.
Amanda said the WNBA trade was getting too much attention because it was. Ooh, that was like a reality show. Every day I was like, who's leaving now? Who's going where? Ooh, I like that. Ooh, it was getting juicy. So, but
would have been like
the trades. I love all of them personally. It's not one fever trade I don't like.
For the people that say Nico Harrison, he pinned this on the defense. We got to be better defensively. This would have been the equivalent, and I mean literally the equivalent of the Indiana Fever trading away Caitlyn Clark. Okay, for whoever, take your pick. Trading away Caitlyn Clark to another team and saying she just wasn't cutting it defensively.
I'm not saying it makes sense.
No, I'm saying ain't nobody care about what Caitlyn Clark does.
I understand. Trust me. I don't think it makes sense, but I think it's hilarious. That's what I do think.
It's hilarious.
Right. But again, back to my comment, I think I love all the fever trades. It's not one fever trade I don't like.
Who's the latest? I saw one. Was it yesterday morning?
Duana
Bonner. I saw that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good ad. That's a good pickup.
That's a great ad.
That is a really good pickup.
We're going to be big next year.
Good stuff. Kelly, appreciate you calling in and appreciate your super chat. Forgot to mention Aaliyah's defense and ball handling were critical today, Love Sid, but should not be the primary ball handler. And we brought that up early in the show. Probably Kelly was watching. Aaliyah, especially with the lack of, her numbers, she didn't shoot the ball well. She turned the ball over too many times. But boy, the fact that she was able to kind of steady the ship with the ball in her hands and the ball in Lucy Olsen's hands down the stretch of this game, took some pressure off Sydney Falter, who did struggle and is going to continue. She's not a natural ball handler. That's just not who she is. So absolutely, Kelly, appreciate your super chat. And we've got somebody on the line here. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hello, this is Jacob. How are you doing?
Good, Jacob. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you. I just
haven't heard from you a while, Jacob. Haven't heard from you a while.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
It's such a shock that you decided to call in today. What a shock! Go ahead.
Well, I just want to make sure I heard this right now. I have been watching, but I haven't called in. But I just want to make sure I heard this right. You said a statue next to Dirk. Did I hear that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow the NBA?
He was definitely going to get a statue if he stayed there his career.
Do you follow the NBA? Do you realize that Luka Doncic was on his way to being the best player potentially in the history of the franchise, even ahead of Dirk, if he stayed his entire career, which he had no plans to leave, by the way. He was going to sign that Supermax next season. He would have had a statue right next to Dirk Nowitzki in about 10 years.
Okay. Well, I'm just glad that we can foresee what Luka is going to do in 10 years versus what we saw him not be able to do in the NBA Finals. But maybe that's just me.
What is AD?
Corey, don't feed into it.
What has AD done in the NBA Finals as a second?
Lord, here we go.
Really? We're gonna go down that road.
Does AD have a championship ring? I maybe I haven't followed NBA long enough. Does he have one?
You obviously don't follow the NBA at all, Jacob. Like at all. If you're honestly sitting here, literally, I have not heard from anybody with a straight face beyond Kendrick Perkins, who, by the way, is not a serious person on ESPN. I've not heard from a single person who's advocated that this is actually a good trade. So you're just trolling. I respect the hustle.
Whoa. That's a straw man. I never said that it was a good trade. I never said that.
You're trolling.
I only said that, to be fair.
Yeah, you're trolling.
I love the show.
Yep.
I am trolling a little bit.
A lot.
Right?
Go ahead.
But I agree with Kachine a little bit. I think this could be a good trade long term for the Mavs. And the reason why is one thing that's not getting taken into consideration is there obviously is something brewing between the organization and Luka. It could be a personal issue for just maybe the GM. It could be, who knows? But there was something going on, something. And was it fixable? Who knows? I don't know if there would have been a long-term contract that the organization wanted to offer, because I haven't heard anybody in the organization, especially players, coming out wholeheartedly defending Luka. That hasn't happened yet.
You must not be on social media or watch any shows or any media.
Okay, you two. This is not a Mavs show. I don't even care about it. I just think it's funny.
Everybody has laughed at this because of how stupid it is. And by the way, Jacob, this is the last thing I'll say and I'll move on. They are in win now mode to the extent where if they don't win 2 of the next 3 titles, it's a total failure of a move. They can win 1 title with AD and Kyrie, and I'll still say it was a stupid decision, because you're taking away a guy who's going into his prime, 7 years younger than Anthony Davis, who's a generational player. You're taking him out of the picture, and you got nothing in return besides a 32-year-old and a late first-round pick in Max Christie and a single first-round pick in, 2029? So anyways, Jacob, I got to move on because people are going to get mad.
You have an Iowa question, Jacob?
The only thing I would like to say about Iowa. Hello?
Yeah.
We got you.
Okay, good. The only thing I would like to say about Iowa is I think the other day I heard, I can't remember who, I think it was Lisa Bluter was talking about the Caitlyn Clark's jersey ceremony. And she said that one thing that people in sports is they're never realistic. And they don't understand necessarily that it takes time for a turnaround. And Iowa did lose a lot. And even though they have struggled this year, certainly, they have struggled, but they're in every game. And I just really appreciate how hard they fight and how they don't give up. And that it's easy to maybe point out that they don't look the same, but I think Jan and the coaching staff specifically deserve a lot of credit for how they put game plans together, because that's one thing that they haven't lost. They have good game plans, they make good adjustments. It's just they don't have the experience yet to close out games like they had the last few years. If they had a little bit more experience across the board, they could have won probably 3, maybe 4 of those losses that they had in a row. So the future is bright in Iowa, and that the coaching staff across the board, Jan all down, they're all doing a great job. And I'm just excited for what Iowa's going to look like going forward.
I agree.
We appreciate you calling in, sir. We appreciate your troll game, I guess. And we'll talk to you hopefully after another win on Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Let's be honest. We all know he's trolling. Big time trolling. Anyways, all right, couple things in the chat. We got 2 callers still here waiting to log on. Susie Q reminding everybody, hit the like button. A lot of people have been here. How many people?
The like button.
The answer to that question is not enough. Hit that like button, folks, before you go. Takes 2 seconds to do. Thank you, Susie, for reminding everybody. Andrew MC, what will this game and environment do to recruiting? I think we covered that earlier with Kyle. Again, some big names in the building, specifically one for 2026. Steve says USC needs to stop forcing Juju and passing it around. They need to start passing it around. Excuse me. They have some great players, but seem to be more concerned about personal stats. You did mention that earlier, that Juju took some unorthodox shots early in the shot clock. I don't think that's typical of what we see out of that offense.
And they're not using their post effectively. But go ahead.
Genevieve says, let's see, Guyton had to be there because they're still having problems with the press until now. How is it that a drill being taught on every basketball camp can't be done by a D1 team?
It is not that simple.
It's not that simple. We did talk about Iowa struggling against the press. Anything that you can, I mean, they've gotten better against the press. The numbers would say they've gotten better against the press. But is it
I
just
like the little give and go they did with Lucy Olsen, like sprinting through the middle? I liked that look.
They're trying different things. They just don't have a lot of natural ball handlers.
Correct.
And with the exception being Aaliyah Guyton and sort of Taylor Strimla, but neither are polished, and especially not Taylor on the offensive end with the ball in her hands.
Correct.
Doug wants to know if Lucy can come back for another year. No, unless there's changes with NCAA eligibility rules, etc. Andrew MC wants you on the coaching staff. No changes there. Genevieve says, do you think USC and Juju being unable to pull fans and not being used to playing in a 15,000 plus sold out arena with a crowd against them was a factor in them losing?
I think that's the reason why she said they were planning on staying regardless of the outcome, because she appreciates the fans and the atmosphere that Iowa has, and she wanted them to see it.
So they don't get
and
fans.
Pay respect. No, not like that. It's not many people. It's not. I can probably count of how many people get that like often.
Yeah. Well, and LA is a total. I mean, obviously, we're comparing LA versus Iowa City.
Correct. We don't even have one professional sports team.
Yeah. Timothy, is Hannah eligible?
It's actually one of the reasons why I went there. But go ahead.
Yes, Hannah could enter the draft. She's got 1 year left after this. She's not entering the draft. I would be shocked if she enters the draft. Kachine, are you with me on that?
No, she's not entering the draft.
All right. Tim wants to know, would you recommend University of Iowa to get a hand-sculpted bronze statue?
They better do something.
Lisa Bluter and Caitlyn Clark outside it. Well, they already have the Lisa Bluter Herky, which I think is sort of strange. They are going to erase.
Very.
Don't you think that's strange?
Weird.
I think it's weird too. Thank you, Cash.
So
Thank you.
Weird.
Someone else finally says it. I look at that every time. I'm like, that is so weird.
Like, why?
Exactly. I don't
know. But anyways, I think they both deserve one outside somewhere.
Yeah. Askabum says that 5-game skid was just the normal growing pains. Comes with a coaching staff, I believe. Coach Jay will be okay. Well, it's easy to see that in hindsight.
Mhm.
At the time, I don't think any of us were saying that. So
No.
all right. Let's go to our next caller. We've got Corey, who is done with the whiskey. He's now transitioned to beer. No,
We
he's
got it.
All right. That's just regular Crown Royal, correct, Corey?
That's just your standard Crown Royal.
Standard.
All right. Just
Basic.
if you're going to
So
please promise you're not going to operate heavy machinery or anything like that, or plan on getting pregnant anytime soon. If that's the case, just proceed and do what you need to do on a Sunday afternoon. Good to see you.
no, but having had Crown Royal, I feel very fertile at this point. So
Okay.
So happy for everyone.
okay, let's celebrate some fantastic things that happened.
All right, you go ahead. Rattle it off.
By the way,
Coach?
before you start rattling, and this can't be an endless rattle, but you said earlier that Brada hates Kentucky. What does that mean? Where does that come from? Like Kentucky bourbon?
Yes, you're a whiskey hater. My God, I
Are you kidding me?
so much as flashed this on the screen and I got blocked out.
You started chugging it on screen. What are you talking about?
No. I was
by the way,
sipping.
Wait, real quick. Anthony Davis played at Kentucky, so I can no longer be a Kentucky hater. Go ahead.
Okay.
So you stick to the point. Coach Jan, when people were rolling hot, she stuck with them this game. She didn't pull them out due to a scheduled rotation or some spastic reaction or nervousness. She rolled with the people that were hot. And that is what won this game.
Mhm.
That is a big step for Coach Jan, in my opinion. Cash, did you sense a shift in her rotation and her sticking with players that were hot?
Yeah. You be listening? Because I'll be wondering. Yes.
I'm listening.
100%. She changed up how she was doing things. Even just keeping O'Grady in there. I don't think we would have seen that before. She would have took her out.
Yep, that to me was huge. And they made reference to Hannah sitting on the bench, which I love Hannah, and Hannah was huge
She was
in
a
this
great
game.
teammate on the bench.
But she was big in this game too.
Was.
But at that point in time in the game, you got the hot hand. Addie's rolling hot. You stick with your hot hand. And to me, that's been one of my biggest peeves with Jan is that somebody will get hot and she rotates them out. It's like Hayden Fry, scratch where it itches. If something's working, you keep working that until it no longer works. Then
Actually, you have the wrong analogy. It's milk the cow till she's dry. But anyways, hate fryisms are great regardless of which one you throw out there. So scratch while it itches works as well, Corey. But
yes, sir. But that said, Lucy Olsen earned her check tonight. Okay. That girl, okay, I'm going to say what I see. The moment was a little bit big for Aaliyah Guyton at times. She picked up her dribble and she's stuck at the top of the lane. Now, that said, I'm really mad at her teammates. If you don't pick up your dribble, it's likely because you're about to lose possession of the ball. So you pick it up before it gets stolen. Now, when that happens, your teammates need to move their butts to the ball and show themselves as a viable option to pass to. This team does not cut to the ball. Just like when a quarterback's rolling out and he's on the run and he's on a rollout, you got to get open. You got to run to the ball. This team doesn't do that. They need to learn, and they need to learn quickly. That said, Part of that's on Aaliyah Guyton for picking up her dribble, but a lot of it is on her teammates. You need to move your butts to the ball and show yourself and get open. That was driving me nuts. I'm amazed that I'm still married after the screaming that took place in my basement today.
There's
My wife
there's still time left in the day. Go ahead, Corey.
My wife is sickened with the amount of cussing that took place in this basement of mine.
That's not Kirk like language. I hope that you're just joking, because Kirk would never.
So
Hank in the chat wants to know if
Be
you still.
Kirk-esque.
He wants to know if you still want Kirk to coach until he dies. Is that
yes,
still?
I roll
Corey?
with Kirk.
Host Corey, stop derailing my guy. Go ahead, Corey, for Michigan.
Kachine, you and I want one shot of crown with you. You are the queen, and I love Kachine rolls with Aaliyah Guyton to the end, but Kachine also celebrated Lucy and
I sure
her
did.
hot
Addison.
hand. Addison and Lucy. This was my RTI, and I missed
And Kylie's defense. We'll give her a nod too.
Lucy. Kachine, you are. I'm just gonna stop talking because you're just filling in all my blanks. We are totally synonymous here. Okay.
You were going to stop talking. You said you were going to stop talking. You said it. I didn't say it that time. You said it, Corey.
That's fake news. Okay. So,
right.
But
go ahead.
But
one last thing, right?
So
one last thing, right?
So my thing is this.
All right.
Addie O'Grady, Lucy Olsen, they were the hot hand.
Yep.
And Coach Jay stuck with them. And Kylie Feuerbach and her defense and just her poke shots at JJ or at, Juju. And just, it doesn't have to be us celebrating the same people every week. Let's celebrate each game. Let's celebrate who had a great game. Okay. And the credit goes to Kylie Feuerbach on defense, Addie O'Grady on offense, and crunch time, Lucy Olsen on offense. And lastly, that Carver-Hawkeye Arena energy willed that team to a victory. Okay. When we lost that lead, that 20-point lead, when we lost that by halftime, I'm a diehard, okay? And I never say die, ever. But I pretty much started pouring the drinks. I'm like, you know what? This ain't adding up. This ain't happening. You got and I just this
you and I are simpatico. I know you don't even I know you're struggling to say what you want to say. I know, Corey. See, I know you, bro. We know each other. I know exactly what you're thinking. You don't even have to say it.
But we willed this team to victory.
Yes,
this was above all of us. This is likely above Crown Royal. This is something very special because she knows this.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was special.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
This may be destiny here.
Talking about
we have.
What are we talking about?
No. We have and I want to give a shout out to Lemansky. Lemansky, bring in the energy. But I want to challenge Lemansky. 1999, ain't cutting it anymore. Lemansky, you got to break the 20 barrier. Is he doing that for tax purposes? Is he doing it? Is he doing it to supplement Luka Joker's salary in LA? I mean, what's going on here with Lemansky holding back the 20 spot on these super chats? I want to know.
Joker and Doncic are two different players. That's the first thing.
Okay, Luka Doncic, the
Did
Dallas
you say
Maverick.
Ooh,
Sorry.
Say it again, Cash.
Didn't you say last thought?
Yeah, you said.
Corey,
Okay.
you know you have my heart. I was just trying to keep you accountable. That's all.
We love
Hey.
you.
It's all love here.
Hey, listen, as an Iowa State grad, as a Hawkeye lover to the core, my dad's last 14 days of his life were spent involved with Hawkeye football, Hawkeye energy. I spent time in that Hawkeye locker room many times during the AC Earl, Ed Horton, Roy Marble days. And let me just say, I live, I die, and I bleed Hawkeye. Oh, wait, shout out, Erica. Hold on.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Erica's shouting you out. She says that you need to consider cheerleading and that you'd be great. You
No,
can be
I got a bad right knee, but I love Erica. I love Commander Cody. I love Tony. I love Ryan. I love Lemansky.
And you love Kirk Ferentz, and we love you. Corey, have a great night. Go Hawks. We'll talk to you after the next men's loss.
No. We are winning. We're winning out.
Yeah.
Go Hawkeyes.
Yeah,
We're bringing positivity, good energy. Let's go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Absolutely. Okay.
All right. Who won the timer?
I tried to
cut
cut
the
him
over
off.
under.
It's still on, but I tried to cut him off.
Who won the over under?
Thank you, Erica. Erica, thank you for the super chat, Erica. Greg Young says Iowa's 3-0 versus USC since '93, according to the USC website. Greg says I was in the Iowa Pep Band when C. Vivian Stringer and Michelle Edwards beat USC in the '88 Sweet 16. Cool stuff there. Let's go to our what I think is going to be our final caller of the day. And Tom, have you been drinking? Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat because we all know the answer is yes. I hate to say that. We know the answer is yes. What have you been drinking? And please tell me your drinking response.
Hey, I wasn't going to call in.
I know you weren't, but you did. You always do. It's right at the end when I'm trying to get off.
Well,
I love you.
Sometimes I'm going to make it short. Sometimes I have to turn it off during that. And I just got done laughing so hard watching this last caller. It was good.
We should just we can just get you and Corey in a room and you guys can just talk up for about 4 hours. Does that work?
Anyway,
if anybody wants to talk to Corey or to Tom while sharing a nice responsible beverage after, just click on this link. I will not be here. Kachine will not be here, but I will leave. We're not going to be live on YouTube, but you can talk until you're blue in the face. I hope you don't get blue in the face, but go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm good. Just one take about the game. I think a little bit back to, what Caitlyn did to the Iowa team. Caitlyn made everybody better. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Lucy do that today too.
Yeah.
It just, she made everybody step their game up and they obviously looked really good today. So I won't take much more at that. I get a kick out of it. So
thanks, Tom.
That's all you're saying, Tom. I love it. Hey, say hi to the wife.
No,
wife.
I don't. Yeah.
All
She's
right,
probably
Tom.
watching. That's why.
Hi, wifey.
All right, later.
We appreciate you. Thanks, Tom. All right, good stuff, folks. We're over 2 hours in. Cash, I think we knew this was going to be a little longer of a show. For everybody that was here and was a part of the show, called in, super chats, all that. Kyle, everybody who's part of this thing. Thank you. Please keep me in your thoughts for the foreseeable future. Kachine, anything else? The Hawkeyes play at your Gophers.
Did you just say your Gopher? I know you ain't just say that.
You're from that area, and
No.
Well,
No.
All right. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
My Iowa plays at the Minnesota Gophers. I don't claim them.
What?
Or else I'd have went there. What you mean?
You would you say what you just said again?
I do not claim them. Okay, they're not my Minnesota Gophers.
Okay, they were yours from early. You watched the Gophers growing up, did you not?
I did.
Okay, well,
and then I got older and
you made better life decisions.
I chose to bleed black and gold. So yeah.
All right, do we dare answer this last call?
What? Somebody called in?
So yeah. All right, do we answer? Do we dare answer this last call? All right, let's answer because I can hear my own voice. Appreciate you calling the show. Who's on the line? I can't even get it out.
Well, Corey, I have so much respect for you, and I feel so bad for your dying franchise that'll go down in flames like the Dallas Cowboys. You poor Mavericks fan.
Yeah, it's almost Jerry Jones-esque, isn't it? So,
I mean, I feel for you. You have my empathy. I know why you're ornery today. You have every right to be ornery. But
a lot worse.
Have you ever been to a happy hour in Iowa City?
I don't believe I have. Cash has.
Well, I don't know if you're dressed for your funeral or all I know is if I go down to Iowa City, I'm calling Cash to meet me there for happy hour because in college at Joe's Place Tavern about 4:00, the field hockey team pinned me in the corner doing shots and I had to go to the bathroom, Corey, and they wouldn't let me out. So they said, okay, if you have to go to the bathroom, Lemansky, you're going to have to crawl.
I'll be your bodyguard, Lemansky.
Excuse me?
I'll be your bodyguard.
Well, I was so proud of those ladies because they showed me what toughness is. And they made me crawl to that table to go to the bathroom. I love every field hockey team since then because, Corey, that's how you do happy hour in Iowa City. And you're on the verge of just a flame out alcoholic binge. You're on the verge. I respect your maturity, but if you're a Hawkeye, we know how to celebrate.
You know what Corey you're talking about, or you're talking to, right? you're not talking to the Corey you think you're talking to. But anyways, go ahead.
I know you got it in it, buddy. I know you got it. You just don't want to show it on a professional basis behind the microphone. You're good. You know, you're Jimmy Zabel on the air and Jimmy Zabel off the air. Because I saw Jimmy Zabel at Perkins one night, and my God, he came off the rails.
At Perkins, okay. Well, that's quite a place to come off the rails. So,
well, you go to eat, Corey, after you've been out all night. You got to put something in your stomach.
Yeah, 2:00 in the morning. They're one of the few places open for 24 hours, right?
Oh, sure. With Eddie Podolak beside him, it was a scene.
Well, Lemansky,
anyway,
we
I'm gonna let you go because I'm babbling.
Well, we appreciate your support of the show as always, your donations and your call, and you know you're always welcome here. We love hearing from you, sir.
You know that Cash knows how to celebrate, and we're hoping you get there someday. But you're kind of a freshman in the celebration game, so we got hope for you, buddy. You have a good night.
It's been a rough, bittersweet 24 hours. Thank you, Lemansky. Actually, it's been less than that. It's been like 12 hours. Folks, we appreciate everybody being here. And the Hawkeyes defeating the number 4 USC Trojans in a shocker, 76-69. Not as big of a shocker as that trade last night, but it was a shocker nonetheless. Lucy Olsen with 28, including 23 in the second half. And Iowa outscores the Hoosiers in that second half by a total of 8. They trailed by a point at halftime in spite of getting out to an 18-1 lead early, went back and forth. Basketball's a game of runs, as we saw today. The Hawkeyes will be back on the road this coming Thursday at Minnesota on Big Ten Network at 7 p.m. Central Time. This is I think it's safe to say, an improved Gopher bunch from the last couple of years. Is that a fair assessment, Kachine?
That is very fair.
Playing on the road is a challenge. Regardless, you're coming off an emotional win. Give me some keys for Iowa not to have a letdown, and what can you tell us about this Minnesota?
Honestly, I'm only going to say one thing. Defense. Defense tends to fuel us as a team. So if we can play defense and we can be intentional in doing so and energy behind it, everything else I think will follow.
I don't think the offense was great in the first quarter. It was good during spurts, but the defense, won this game in that first quarter. And let's not forget, Kachine, I know the identity of this team has maybe changed throughout the season, but I'll reflect back on lesser wins like at Drake, against Kansas. How many different times did we look at a quarter and say, wow, they held this team to 5 points in this quarter or 7 points in this quarter? And they did that today with USC holding the Trojans to 4 points in the first quarter. That's hard to overcome if you're the
offense of the season or something. That's
But this is a trend, though. I mean, in Iowa's best performances of having keeping opponents down to single digits in a single quarter, and again, that's hard to overcome. And Iowa, I don't want to say they're undefeated.
That's only key for Minnesota.
Hawkeyes Gophers Thursday night, 7 p.m. Cash, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll talk to you Thursday.
Yeah, thanks for keeping me accountable on the shot, guys. So appreciate it.
Now we just got to get you a plate of crow, and we'll be all set. So.
Oh, my God.
All right, folks. For Kachine Alexander, I'm Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll talk to you this week.